Sir, are you ready?
Yes, you are. I'm just trying to get this.
Okay. All right. District Manager, are we recording right now?
We are.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, we are now going to call the meeting to order. The time is now 7:06 p.m. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening for the Executive Committee meeting for CB9 for the month of November 2022. My name is Fred Baptiste. I currently serve as the chair of CB9, and I will be chairing this Executive Committee meeting. At this time, what I would like to do is amend the agenda. There are a couple of items I want to make sure are included, and we'll see if they're there. So at this time, I would like to amend the agenda to item 1 will be the welcome, which I'll conclude in a moment. We will have item 2 will be public comment. Item 3 will be the committee chair check-in. Item 4 will be the DM check-in. Item 5 will now be a treasurer's check-in if the treasurer is able to report in. That will be followed by item 6. Item 6, which will be the chairman's report. Item 7 will be unfinished business. And we have one item that's on the table. What did I leave off as? Item 7. Item 8 will be to set the agenda for the upcoming general board meeting. Item 9 will be any other business, and item 10 will be adjournment. Are there any issues with that, with the amended agenda? Are there any objections? Can we accept it by common consent? Any objections? Okay, hearing none, the agenda stands as amended. So with that extra item added. Okay, all right, so to continue the welcome, so again, welcome to the Executive Committee meeting this evening. We're going to try to be expeditious in terms of going through the agenda this evening. In terms of the rules of order, they are in effect for all CB9 meetings. We are going to waive the reading of the rules of order. I would just remind everyone that please make sure that we're being respectful to all speakers. When you do not have the floor, please stay silent until the floor you have been recognized, and at which point you will have the floor. For those who are on by phone, especially if you wish to speak, to raise your hands, you will use the *9 feature on the phone, which will raise your hand. It also serves to lower your hand. At the appropriate time, when you are recognized, you will use *6 to unmute yourself. And that same *6 button actually serves to mute yourself as well. Okay, so with that, we are now going to go into item 2. If we're going to go into item 2, public comment. Dante, do we have anyone signed for public comment this evening?
No, no one signed up ahead of time.
Okay, at this time, I only see one attendee, but if we have someone who wishes to speak during public comment, please use the raise hand function and we can recognize you. Take commentary. Okay. Dante, do you see anyone who's raised hands for public comment?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to move on. Public commentary section is closed. We're going to move on to the agenda to item 3, committee chair check-ins. For all those committee chairs who are here, we want to move through the agenda expeditiously, so please keep your oral reports to 2 minutes or less. Reports are expected from all the committees, so please make sure that you have tendered your report to the district office, so that way it can be included as part of the package that's going to go out very shortly. So please make sure you submitted it if you have not done so already. Again, I want to remind you, 2 minutes, please. Are there any committees that have action items before I recognize? With action items that need to be voted on this evening? Public safety, I know you have action items this evening?
No big action items for us. We had quorum, so we don't need to vote here on the liquor licenses, and otherwise, nothing to move forward that we need to move out of committee.
Okay, but you do have liquor licenses that we need to push forward.
Yes. So you want us to just like add those to the agenda?
That's okay. When you give your report, you can give us the licenses, and we'll take that and add to that.
Okay.
Public safety, I see that we'll have you call you momentarily. Warren, you have a report for
I have two. For Europe, it's more of a question than a report. The committee has voted on forming a subcommittee to investigate the Yes New York project that's going on. And my
Okay.
question is, does that have to go to for a vote, or the committee has the right to appoint the subcommittee?
That is a good question. I believe that actually has to come up for a vote because I think per the bylaws, the board actually has to establish that. So that'll be an
Okay.
action item for us to consider when we pass up. So
Correct.
I'll see you next as well since you have an action item. Are there any other committees that have action items, things that we need to vote on this evening? Okay, Dante, I would ask this, do we have anything, or Ms. Albanor, were you able to chair the transportation committee? Do they have an action item?
Yes, I was. The city naming, they voted to spend money for Joy on me.
Okay. No, that's fine. Okay, so we'll make sure we call you, so just please make sure you bring that up so we can put that on the table for the vote by the exec. All right, so with that, we'll start with those items and we'll continue as we go along. All right, so I do know that our public safety chair has a time constraint for this evening, so we'll allow him to go first. Primo, go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had the officer from the 71st precinct come and give a report about crime in the district, which was great. Officer Connors came and gave what was a lengthy report about both last year and this year and some of the differences between the 2 years. Overall, we're seeing that crime is rising in the district versus last year. Last year, they had record lows across the district in terms of crime. And something that they refer to as like the big seven, which are the kind of major crimes, those are all up. In particular, Officer Connors wanted us as a community to think about break-ins to vehicles. And that was like a major one where if we spread information around the community, we could make a big difference. And I think the one thing that he wanted us to share was that you basically just shouldn't leave visible items in your car. Because when people can see something in your car, they're more liable to break into it. So break-ins to vehicles are very much on the rise. I mean, homicides are up from last year, sexual crimes are up from last year, but those are harder for the community to like do something about. The community can do something about vehicular break-ins though, and that's stop leaving kind of tempting items, if you would, in your car. So that's a quick summary of the report from the police department. Next week, or next month, I'm sorry, we're hoping to have the FDNY join. We're also looking at doing a fire safety event in early December for the community. We need to get about like 25 people to come for the FDNY to share information about best practices around fire safety for buildings and for individual apartments. So thinking about things like, you know, best practices with space heaters, et cetera, just like how to reduce the number of fires inside of the district. So that's one thing that we're looking at for early December. We just haven't landed on a date. We're thinking about doing a Saturday. So I think it's either the 2nd or the 9th of December that we'd be looking at primarily. And then, sorry, with regard to the liquor licenses, there were 3 in front of us. 2 were called back from our last meeting. Let me just pull these up so I can name what the 3 are. And so our 3 were Island Escape, which was a return application from last time. We brought this to the executive committee, and the executive committee, along with our own committee, thought that we should ask them questions about committing to hiring locally. If you remember correctly, this was the applicant that was coming from Georgia. Actually, one of the cast members from not the Real Housewives, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, who was submitting this application, has 2 restaurants in Atlanta and was opening their first restaurant in New York. And so we just wanted to know that they were committed to hiring locally. They came, they committed fully to hiring locally. So we approved the application and basically are going to ask that it be approved by the larger community board. Moving on to the second applicant, who was also sent back to committee, that was the House. Our particular problem with that application was that the hours were Monday through Thursday until 2 a.m. And we thought that was kind of problematic. So we had a larger discussion and got them to agree to move the hours to 1 a.m. And so what they're going to be doing is resubmitting their application with changed hours. I would say, just for the sake of the executive committee, that was a contentious conversation. They were not happy with the fact that we asked them to move the hours back. And so I do think that we probably need to have a larger conversation around what it looks like for our committee to make recommendations to applicants around their hours. I'd be interested in the executive committee's thoughts on kind of what our agency is in making those sorts of recommendations, and if we have kind of rules in place, or if we're fine kind of making a best call from the, kind of opinions essentially of the executive committee. So I don't know if you want to pause here and have that conversation, or if you want to move on to the third applicant.
Very quickly, and some of the other exec members also chime in. It's not uncommon for boards, for our board, or for most boards, to actually put stipulations or restrictions in terms of the hours. It's a balancing act we're trying to do in terms of understanding and supporting businesses. But we're also, they're going to be in the community, so we also have to be respectful of that aspect as well, in terms of how late things are going, how it impacts the neighbors and everything else as well. I think the one thing we would want to do is always just make sure we're trying to be as consistent as possible. I think usually the sweet spot has been between that 12 and 1 o'clock. I can't remember if we've done as late as 1, but that might be something that's doable. But I think that would be something that's a point of discussion, and you should always feel free to be able to discuss that in the exec. There may be further conversation by the time we get to the board meeting as well, but I think you're definitely within your purview to be able to make those kinds of requests.
All right.
Any other board members have any comment with that? Is that kind of what we've been doing?
Suki,
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what we've been doing.
Yeah, I just want to say that, over the years, I've also seen applicants come to the board asking for 2 a.m. And it turns out most of them don't really go that late. Like there's someone not far from me that got approved for 2 a.m. a long time ago. And, occasionally I'll pass by and at midnight, there's one person in there. So, I don't know if maybe they're coming in and thinking like, that this is going to be like Williamsburg or something, but, it's just not really like that. Most people here work. And so especially on weekdays, they are in bed by midnight. And, that might just be something you might want to point out to them. Like, are they really do they really think that they're going to have that many customers at that hour? The only business I've ever seen that's been busy at that hour is that Guy Nomaya place that had a problem. I've passed by at 2 a.m. and there were crowds outside, but that's the only one that I know of.
I think that's part of the challenge, is that like it a little bit depends from block to block, like how late places are open. If you go up to Franklin Avenue, like close to Eastern Parkway, places will be open until 2-3 a.m. with people in them. But bars versus restaurants, and what is a bar and what is a restaurant, is hard to define. So anyway, we can talk about it later, but thank you, Suki, for that opinion, because that was largely what the applicant said. They were like, it's a renewal, right? And so they had been granted 2 a.m. on the last one, but it seemed like a lot to me. And he said, we barely have people here past 12 a.m. But, anyway, we can come back to it.
Well, if I may ask before you, Mr. Chair, may I say?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it's okay.
So if the previous one, the original permit that was given to them had 2 AM on the application, so is there a reason why it needs to be changed to shorten the time? If they never, I'm thinking that if they have had some sort of a problem in the neighborhood, if we did receive complaints from persons living the residence and also the police department, that would have been an issue. But if they didn't receive, you or anyone else haven't received any complaints, why change it?
Yeah,
I
and I mean,
understand if it was a new one, but I didn't realize it was a renewal.
yeah, and I think that was a big part of the conversation. So all of these issues came up during our conversation with the applicant, and so I'd love to return to it later. Fred, I know that you want to move forward, so I'll keep it pushing. Yeah. All right.
You said there was a third one, and there was a third application?
There's a third application, which is also a renewal. It's a jazz bar on Nostrand Avenue. Their hours are very early, so that was easy for us to approve. So all three we're approving, with the second one pending that they adjust their hours to 1 AM instead of 2 AM.
That was the committee vote?
Yeah, the committee voted to approve all three.
Okay. How long will you be able to hang on for? 'Cause I just want to make sure we have the information for the.
Me, I'm here till 8 PM.
All right. If we could, let's just capture the information. So for Island Escape, what kind of a license? That's a new license, correct?
It's a new license and it's a full license, so beer, liquor, and wine.
Beer, liquor, and wine. Okay. With a house.
And do you want, like, I'll just give you the hours for everybody. Is that helpful?
Not so much. It sounds like the hours were okay, but mainly what's the category? So is it new licenses and what kind?
Yeah, it's a new license and it's beer, liquor, and wine for Island Escape.
What about for the house?
We know.
For the house, thank you. Yes, it's a renewal and it's a full license, beer, liquor, and wine.
Beer, liquor, and wine. And what about for the jazz bar?
For the jazz bar, it's a renewal and it's also beer, liquor, and wine.
What's the name of the jazz bar?
It's called Bar Bayou or Bayou, BAYEUX. It's under, that's the name of the actual bar, but the LLC is called Bar 4.
BARFOR4?
Yeah, BARFOUR,
Thank you.
of course.
Okay, so 2 renewals. So they're all full license, all full licenses.
Yeah,
Renewals,
all
new.
full
Were
licenses.
there any? Okay. And were there any issues? FDNY issues, safety issues, NYPD, anything? Okay.
No, one thing that was raised was that there are 311 complaints, but 311 complaints, we don't take as seriously as FDNY or NYPD complaints, because I guess in the past people complain at 311, but it's more to annoy the restaurant than to make a formal complaint. So
I mean, I don't know if it's.
no FDNY or NYPD complaints against any of the spaces, some 311 complaints.
Okay. All right, fair enough. All right, I just wanted to make sure we had that, so in case you leave, so at least that you have that, so, in case, we're not able to do that. Okay, we can take 2 quick questions for the public safety chair. Going once and going twice. Thank you very much, Bruno.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Fred.
we're gonna move on. ULURP. Warren, do you have the report for ULURP?
Yes, I do. Basically, the committee met and they voted to appoint a subcommittee to investigate the city of Yes. And we're requesting, if the board needs to approve it, which I'm doubtful of, that they approve it.
Okay, so subcommittee on city of Yes. All right. Okay, was there any other, any details with regards to that, the scope? So they're gonna look at City of Yes. Was there any other details?
Well, they're supposed to research it and essentially say, what is the effect on CV9?
All right, that's fine. So we'll note that as an action item too, so we'll need to vote on that.
Hey, Warren, should
Any
we
other
tell,
items?
sorry, should we
Wait.
tell them who's going to be on the committee?
No. I don't think that's significant.
Yeah, actually, that would probably be a point where if the committee is established, it's probably gonna follow the similar protocol as that we do with committees. Those appointments will come from the chair. If it's voted by the board, we'll have a conversation with ULURP in terms of who we're looking at that. That'll be done separately.
And Suki, thank you.
All right then, so that concludes your report for ULURP, Warren?
Yes, yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for ULURP?
I have a
Okay,
question.
Warren,
I have a
oh, I'm
question.
sorry, Beverly. Yes, go ahead, Beverly.
That's okay. Good evening, everybody. Warren, did I
evening, Beverly.
misunderstand you? Did I misunderstand you when you said that you ULURP appointed a subcommittee, but you're recommending that the board vote yes on the City of Yes?
No, actually, it's the opposite, Beverly. My impression is, and I could certainly be wrong, that a committee has the right to appoint a subcommittee without the approval of the full board. I'm totally in agreement with the appointment of the subcommittee, but we just need definition. And if the answer is yes, it needs the approval, so be it. But that's just my opinion.
Oh, okay. You weren't recommending that the board say yes to the City of Yes prior to the subcommittee's
Not at
conclusion.
all,
right.
not at all. In
All right,
fact, it's
thank
quite the
you.
opposite.
That's why I'm asking.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So, all right, so we're gonna take that as an action item. We'll vote on that. We'll vote on that further as well. Warren, as long as I got you on deck, you have anything for environmental, for economic
Yeah.
development?
Yes, two things. We have two things on the agenda. One is working with Bruce Street, which is a major 501c in our area, concerning, they're doing a study on the business sectors. They have 4 commercial areas that they're investigating, which is Utica, Kingston, Nordstrom, and Franklin. And they really want to determine, this is from a grant they have, they really want to determine what's happening and what has happened. So we're certainly cooperating with them. The second thing is that we are looking about doing something, and time is running out for Shop Local. And we have a proposal out to a 501c to fund a Shop Local event on December 10th. So we'll see what happens. Thank you.
If that's December 10th, we're probably gonna need details on that very shortly. Then,
That's exactly my feeling, Fred.
Can you apply for the Citizens Neighborhood Grant, Warren?
What is that? I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'll send you the link later.
Yeah, send
It's
me
not
the
a
link.
large amount of,
We
don't
we
but it
don't
may
need a
be-
lot of money.
Okay, all right then, cool.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, in other
Yeah, I
words, we
do.
have to pay for certain items, and it doesn't have to necessarily be December 10th. So I appreciate that information. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
so Warren, let me ask this: if December 10th comes, how likely is December 10th? Because if it's very likely, then
In my mind-
we'll put it on the agenda.
No, in my mind, it'll be December 17th. You know,
Do we
because
still have time to vote on it though?
I don't think we have to vote on this issue. Basically, it's an action of the committee. What I would do is I would put it on the agenda for November. And if we have to vote on it, let's get the okay. And if the
Yeah, I
funding
would
comes
probably-
through, we'll go there.
Yeah, I think it's probably better for us to vote to sign on to the activity.
Let's do
And if
it.
it doesn't pan out for the 10th, that's fine. Even if the
Exactly.
date has to change, that's okay. I'm okay. I think that's all right. but I think the board should vote to say, yes, we're doing it, or if there's questions.
No, I agree totally. To put this in perspective, one of the things that the executive board has been, is for the rest of the people on the meeting, has been discussing is to have two events during the year. One is the spring fair, and we want to try to get something to do with shop local and the holidays. So we're just working on it and hoping it comes through.
All right, if I could just ask you to be prepared to have any details for the board. So let's put that on, and we'll vote on that. Let's prepare to have that voted on.
Yeah, I would assume by the time of the board meeting, we'll have a yes and no.
Okay, so whatever details you can provide to the board at that time, so that'll enable us to just make the vote by that time and just approve it and have it on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see.
Kyrie,
Next, I had,
Kyrie had his hands up.
oh, I'm sorry. Kyrie, go ahead.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Fred. Good evening, everyone. I haven't been feeling too well this week, and I actually have to go soon. I just wanted to say that I'm going to try and stay on as long as possible, but I'm really not feeling well. And I just wanted to say that and ask that I please be included in the roll. I don't know if we're going to wait until about 9:30 or so to take the roll, but to make sure.
I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's call the roll right now. Madam Secretary, did you call the roll right now?
Yes, you can.
So you'll be marked as present for the meeting. And depending if you're still here for any votes, we'll mark your votes as well.
That's for me, that's for me, that's for me, that's for me.
Just a little bit background
Somebody
noise. If I could
has
ask,
to-
please keep it. Yes, if I could ask,
Somebody
please
has-
keep your mic muted if you're.
Fred
Go ahead, Madam
Baptiste,
Secretary, you have it. Present.
Fred Baptiste. Warren
Present.
Burke,
Here,
Francisco Leopold,
Francisco, here.
Linda Watson, Lord here, Kristen Lubo. I thought I saw Kristen. Nicholas Almanar
Yeah.
and Kyrie Allen.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Chair,
Yes, thank you very
Got
much.
a quorum.
So I
Linda.
just want to. So we have quorum.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to continue on with the reports. I do see the chair of housing present. Ms. Newsom, you have a report for housing?
Oh, I was already settled in to be last. All right, thanks, Frank, for the surprise. Yes, I
Switching things
do.
up.
Is yeah, no. We had our housing meeting yesterday, and we invited Assembly Member Brian Cunningham to do a presentation. Can you hear me?
now you lost
No,
them.
you said it.
Okay, sorry. And he was saying that the details, just to summarize, he was saying that the details had been finalized, but he's not really sure what they are, because it sounds as if they were finalized before he was able to see them. That's what it sounds like. Because if we all remember, Diana started Vita Brooklyn. So the housing committee asked a couple questions about not just about that development, but about some of the development that's going on that side of town, and if a grocery store is coming, and if he could influence that. He's going to be jockeying to be on the housing committee, housing and health for
Beverly, I'm sorry. 'Cause I think, Beverly, I'm sorry. I think you had faded out. Which was the project that he reported on? Because we didn't hear that part. I think you had faded out.
say again.
Earlier, when you started talking, I think there was a point we couldn't hear you. Which project was it that Brian was talking about?
Kingsbrook Estates.
Thank you.
Okay. So he is, in other words, he doesn't have a lot of detail about it. He just gave us some generalities because he says they are finalizing it, but it sounds like he's not at the table when they were doing that. Because if you remember correctly, Diana, that was really Diana's project. And when he was elected, he was kind of like on the back end of it. But we were able to ask him some questions, like I said earlier, ask him some questions about development on that side of town. Some members expressed concern about parking and pharmacies. And he said that, I don't know if you guys noticed, all over the city, pharmacies are fading. It's turning into the pharmaceutical, your prescription is being sent to you through the mail. That's a really popular thing now, but they were, a lot of the seniors need to go in. They want to, address their drugs, talk to someone, ask questions and stuff like that. So there's legislation that's coming about. That's what the assembly member was talking about, to bring back some mom and pop pharmacies in the community so that seniors can have that level of access. So when he says he's working to be a part of that, and he's working to be on the housing committee in the assembly and health, because he feels that those things, he want to be able to have some input on what comes out of them. And if you're not in the committee, you don't learn about what's happening until it's already occurred. So that's to summarize. We were really pleased that he was able to show up after coming from Somos. He talked to us as he was driving home from the airport, which I was really flattered that he did that.
Thank you very much for the report. So do you have any action items for your committee for this month, or?
No. The only action item we had was for him to present at our housing committee, and he did, but that's not really an action item,
Okay, no worries. No
So-
worries. All right then. Thank you very much for the report. Are there any questions for the housing chair? We can take two.
Yes, it's Warren. Hi, Beverly.
I'm sorry.
It's Warren. At some point in the future, can we get a report on what's happening with the Armory housing? In terms of the affordable housing?
When you say a report, you mean where is it? What does it look like? When can you do
Yeah,
tours?
exactly. In other words, is a
What the
developer coming through? What I'm saying is the developer coming through on the objectives set by the, at that point, city council Woman Combo.
Okay. And all right. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I think it's
And
important.
all right. Is anyone on the board interested? Because we just got a tour last week. Through the luxury apartments. And they look just like honestly, they look just like the other ones, just the amenities are different. So if someone's interested in doing a tour, let us know, because it would be nice for the community to see what all the hoopla was about.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. I think it's our obligation to give a measurement of proposals versus actuality.
Okay, we could do that at the next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you,
Okay.
Beverly.
Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, we can take one more question for the housing chair. Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much for the report, Beverly. All right,
Thank
we are
you.
going to. Okay, we're going to move on. I do see our chair of environmental protection, Ms. Timothy. You on?
Mhm.
What good news you got for us here? Debbie, you there? So Debbie?
Hi,
Gotcha.
can you hear me?
Okay. Hear you now. Yes.
So I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my video. So, that's why, I'm not seeing you guys, but I'm hearing and I'm seeing you guys. You just can't see me. However, so the Environmental Protection Committee, we are hammering out some short-term and long-term goals. We have some things that we are concerned about, such as, developers who are in the development mode, and we are concerned about the baiting of the area for rats. I mean, I was walking down Rogers Avenue near Clarkson. I think there's something going up there. And lo and behold, I'm walking and I see this big thing ran out from inside of there. And I'm like, oh my God. So I don't know how much of that is in the area there. I'm sure it's a lot. But some of the things that we are trying to work on are stuff like that, try to figure out whether they're indeed doing that because they're supposed to bait the area, during the development process. So hopefully we can get, some answers to some of the questions we have from some of these developers or someone who may have information about, how we go about finding out that information. And we're also hoping that we can get more information on the waste baskets, the ones that are missing and the areas that where there needs to be one, because there's a lot of trash. I'm not sure if anyone has been walking around the area, especially where the storage facilities are. Apparently, they put out a lot of stuff that people leave behind on the sidewalk. And lo and behold, people, I guess the homeless and whoever may go and dig up bins, and then there's trash all over and nobody cleans it up. So we had to clean up with a group a few weeks back. Dante organized it. So I was one of the people that was there and we picked up a lot of trash. But when I walked back there the week after that, it was another, bunch of trash all over the place. So, I'm not sure what we can do about that, but hopefully we can try to figure out something so it's not messy in that area as it is. I don't know, who these people, whether they're homeless or whether they just pass by and see these things and they, open them up and, there's food containers, there's cups and all that stuff, in the area there, the stretch between, I want to say Rogers and all the way towards Western Beef. That's the stretch that we did, walk up and, picked up all the garbage. So hopefully we can work on, not only that area, but other areas that may be problematic in terms of, development and trash as a whole, try to get some of that stuff, cleaned up or figure out how to get it done with whether it's with the Department of Sanitation or whomever. And we're also planning to do, like a walk through the neighborhood to see what's going on and, what could be a problem in the future, whether we get a lot of rain again and the drains are clogged up. So things like that we want to, try to get out there and, take a look at. And that's about it for me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I absolutely feel that your pain with respect to the rats. The other day I was walking on Montgomery at a certain time in the morning. Droves of them coming out of buildings, coming out of construction, coming out of vacant buildings. You see cracks in the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There are definitely a lot of places that need to get taken care of. So yes, we, and Dante, perhaps we can talk offline about, what rat measure, who the appropriate agencies are to take care of that. If we need to, I know they do the Rat Academy, but if we could find out what the city can do in terms of baiting or what are they doing specifically in terms of that.
Yeah.
The other piece that I want to address as well, and I think it's a point well taken, especially around those warehouses, if they're dumping stuff in front and the trash is getting spread around, it is still the responsibility of those businesses. So if we know that there are people or places where it's a constant issue, we need to identify those so we can have a conversation with DSNY to say, listen, you know what? On a Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever days we seem to notice it, have your guys go by, and when they drop a few tickets, they learn very quickly. It's like, you know what? Let's stop that practice or be better about maintaining the front property.
Also, I have one
All right.
more, I'm not sure whether you know who Jay Sorid is.
Yes.
He was on our last meeting, Jay Sorid.
Mhm.
He was talking about some development and he had sent information to Beverly. He had also sent information to the board about all the developments in the community, and he hasn't heard anything. So I asked him if his interest was in, presenting his information to the board, and he didn't respond, but you know, I'm not sure what he's looking for, but he said that, he came to the Environmental Protection Committee meeting because there's a piece in there that we should be looking at and try to do something about it. And he also mentioned the Euler Committee, and then he mentioned Beverly and the housing. So I'm not sure what his goal is, but I thought I'd bring it up. I did send an email to the board office, but I hadn't heard anything back, so I'm not sure what the status is of his the documents that he submitted.
Right, and with that respect, I leave that to the committee. That's really what the committee is going to do. If they feel that there is an area or an entree point for them, they'll do it at that point. I believe he's spoken to Euler. I believe directly spoken to Europe, and he's spoken to housing, but I leave it at their discretion. So when they're ready and prepared to give a recommendation or no recommendation, we'll take it from that point. Okay, so Debbie, I do see two questions for you. I did see Warren and I see Chris. Chris will take you first and then Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Debbie, I chaired the Environmental Protection Committee last year, and we came up with a couple of, to be exact, 5 locations south of Empire Boulevard that needed trash receptacles. And you mentioned that there are some areas where you feel like there could be more trash bins. So I just want to ask you, would it be helpful if I shared those locations with you via email?
That would be helpful because we did request the listing from the board, but we haven't received anything. So, I mean, I think that some areas can use the large belly trash cans as opposed to the small ones that I saw out there. So, there are some areas that, you would find there's more trash than others. So the larger belly would probably make a difference there at those locations. So it would be good to have a list to get a sense as to what has been done, what is pending.
All right, I'll send you a list. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Warren, we see you.
Hey, appreciating Debbie's report. These self-storage areas are private businesses. If they're not policing their garbage, I suggest that Dante call them and say it's their responsibility, at the same time notifying sanitation, because this is a private business, they're generating revenue, and to be blunt, we don't have to clean up their junk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the report, Debbie. All right, let me see. I'm looking very quickly. Hold on. I see. I see our Secretary of Health and Social Services. Fran?
I was just about going to bed.
It's going.
Hi, everyone. Good
How's it
evening.
going?
Okay, so our committee, we met on November 3rd. We had a presentation from a doctor who came in from One Brooklyn Health. His presentation was on diabetes, and during the COVID, whilst we were home, we had a lot of presentations from One Brooklyn Health. So I'm looking for the new year, Mr. Chair, so we could have a health segment when we have in the general. I don't know how possible it will be to have a health segment on diabetes, maybe a 10-minute spiel, or I know the time, but it's very important. Most times, we have everything that's coming and we give time, but anytime it has to do with health, we always push it on the side, and it's very important that our community get information when it comes to the health. And when you look at the statistics, diabetes is very rampant in our community, especially in the Black community. Persons are not taking care of themselves, they are not eating well. So it is very important that person get those one-on-one information on diabetes. So I'm looking forward to in the new year. Next month is already December, so come January, if we can put that as a presentation as part of the agenda to be presented at this general meeting. Also, again, we went over our budget as to what our budget looks like. So I will be filling out the budget form to submit it. And coming to, I was kind of taken aback when someone spoke. I don't remember who spoke about it. I think it was Warren who spoke about the subcommittees, because this is something that I also discuss subcommittees at our meeting. So I'm looking for 2 committees, a planning committee as well as an outreach committee. And we have already split the team as to who will be on the planning committee and this outreach committee, not knowing that we had to get an approval. There is a vote to have those committees going. Also for our seniors, I had a meeting I met with Brian Cunningham's office, and I've been talking to them concerning the seniors and, getting some program going for the seniors. So early in the year, God's willing, 2023, we'll be doing something, but we're looking for February to have a Valentine's, get together for the seniors. So I will be talking to Beverly, because since she's at Ebbetsfield and there are a whole lot of seniors, and I still want to discuss it with the team as to the logistics in doing that, because we have a whole lot of seniors right now. And then I was looking at Grace Reformed Church, but then I don't want it to be an area where we have too many people one on top of the other. So I'm looking to see as to how we can work that out. And Brian Cunningham's office, they're willing to work with us, as well as Rita Joseph. She and I, we had a conversation on doing something. So both offices, they're willing and able to work with us when it comes to the seniors, and if they would like to partner with my committee to really do stuff for the seniors in the community. But it's how we go about doing that, having a place that is big enough that we can have the seniors come in, they could sit comfortably, and no one is exposed to anything. So this is where we are right now, Mr. Chair.
Did you call me, Francesca?
I
sorry, I
haven't
blurted
I
out.
haven't
Sorry
called you.
about
I haven't called you as yet, but I have to touch base with you since you are the person at Ebbetsfield who works with the seniors. So we have to discuss in the new year, most likely January, as to what how we'll work out with the seniors over there to have the event, Valentine's Day event.
Oh, okay, great. Don't forget. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry about burning out, Fred. Sorry about that. I forgot.
No worries. All right. Okay, very quickly, we can take 2 questions for the Health and Social Services Chair. Anyone have questions? Please use the raise hand function. We'll recognize you.
You never have any questions for me.
Second time. You're the easiest person to find. When we got questions, we just ask. All right. Thank you very much for the report for Health and Social Services.
Yeah,
okay. Mr. Almanor. Almanor, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Unfortunately, I don't have too much time. Actually, I'm currently out of town. Actually, I'm in Dallas, Texas, trying to catch up with the city. So, what I want to report quickly, the transportation recommendation to co-naming of residents in Lucerne Avenue for George Quabina of why the West Indian Day Carnival Association, the COVID approved it, is asking the board to approve that. And we would like to put that as a motion. I'm going to have to be shortly, so someone can put in the motion to approve the co-naming of President and Lucerne Avenue for George Quabina was the business manager. That was the result of the transportation meeting. Most of that information will be the minutes once they're published, as opposed to the, let me put it this, my committee, Parks and Recreation. We didn't have much of a quorum, but we did work some ideas. Most of that information will be in the minutes. We didn't have any action item for that day.
Excuse me, Nick, this is Juan. I don't understand what you're saying. We were bad connection.
Yeah, hold on. So from what I understand, so for transportation, Mr. Almanor took care of 2 committees. He ad hoc chaired transportation last week, and he did Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation, I understood that there was a quorum issue. They discussed a few items. There are no action items for Parks and Recreation. For transportation, there is a street co-naming that was presented to the board for President Street. I can't remember the cross street, for Joyce Kwamina, who used to be, she's actually one of the founders of the West Indian Day Carnival Association.
Correct.
So there was a petition that was submitted to the Transportation Committee. And Mr. Almanor, if I'm correct, so you voted in the affirmative, so you approved it?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so the committee voted in the affirmative. So from the exec, if we vote in favor of that, it would go to the full board for consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Okay.
All right, so I know we're going to lose Mr. Almanor in a minute. Anybody have any other quick questions for Mr. Almanor before we lose him? Once, twice. Okay, I think we're good. So Mr. Almanor, thank you for, if you can hang on a little bit longer, great. If not, otherwise, I think we have the information.
We vote to come back, but I'm going to be out for now. Okay.
And I'm looking, and let me give my usual apologies if I have not called. Is there any chairs that have not been called for their reports yet?
No, but Fred, I have to head out. My apologies, everybody.
Yeah, youth services, sir.
Youth services is here?
And
No.
education. Oh,
I don't see youth services. I don't see education. Okay, so I think that concludes the reports, the committee reports. There are a number of action items. We'll take those up shortly. Okay, so we are now going to move on. We had amended the agenda. So before we go into the DM check-in, let's do the treasurer's check-in. Chris, you still here? Still with us? Chris, you still there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, did you call me?
Yeah, no, just we had you on the agenda. We had amended the agenda. Did you want to give a treasurer's report, or is your report just for informational purposes? I know you sent it.
Sorry, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a little hard to hear you, but I heard you say treasurer's report.
Yes.
Yeah, I can give top line and then I'll give a longer report on Thursday night at the general board meeting. But top line is that we are still monitoring for any potential budget cuts that need to be implemented on the part of the mayor as he's signaled. No further information on that just yet, though. The budget snapshot was sent out earlier today with thanks to the district managers and staff in the office. And the third thing I would say is that really, really, really would love to get all of your questions on budgeting as it pertains to how community boards are funded, where the money comes from, when does it come in, how is it spent, what are our rules and regulations. Please send me your questions on that. You can also send me questions on participatory budgeting. And even if you have questions about nonprofits, please send those my way, because on Monday morning of next week, I'm going to send them to the two representatives from the nonprofits that are going to be speaking to all of us Monday evening. So as a reminder, what that is, I committed in June of this year to running a workshop that would help us educate ourselves on the budget of the community board. And so with Dante's help for organizing, we're now doing this workshop Monday night from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. So in order for us to get the most out of this workshop, please send me any questions you have related to budgeting by no later than Friday at 5 o'clock this week. Thank you. And I'll have a longer treasurer report on Thursday for the general board. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we can take two quick, oh, I saw a hand already. We can take, Chris, can we take two questions? All right, Debbie, I see you. Go ahead with your question for the treasurer.
I just wanted to ask Christian who's going to be doing the presentation.
It's Benjamin Solitaire from the Committee for Citizens Engagement Committee. And it's a woman from another nonprofit in the city that's head of communications. I'm sorry, I don't have her name in front of me, but I sent out all the information to the board earlier this week, and it has their names and titles.
Because I know Borough Hall usually does one as well.
It's the Civic Engagement Commission and the Independent Budget Office.
Thank you, Dante. And Dante and I will
Thank
be
you.
on the call as well. You're welcome.
Okay.
I do have one question, so I guess I'll take the second question then. So for Chris and Dante, you guys can tag team this. So with respect to the PEG, I think there was a target of 3 or 4%. Have we already started the process of identifying potentially where cuts would go? Because where we would slit our own throat, or if we just nick a leg, or what do we do?
Yeah, well, we were very fortunate enough to receive a little bit of city council funding from our council members. And, after speaking with Chris, we really thought that it would be best to use that money as our cushion of that. If in the event that the mayor cuts the money from our budget, we think that that would cover that cushion. So we're just waiting and seeing with that.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and Chris, thank you very much for that. Yeah, thank you very much. And and I know you have some other issues that you're taking care of. If you're able to hang on, great. If not, we absolutely understand. And thank you very much for coming to see.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with that, so we'll move on in the agenda. We're going to go on to the district office report. Please call Mr. Arnwine to the floor.
Okay, good evening, everyone. All right, for the November report, first, I just wanted to take a quick second to thank Debbie Timothy and Teresa Westerdahl for coming out with us early, well, I guess it would have been last month or earlier this month, time goes by fast, to clean up Empire Boulevard with an organization called Clean Up Crown Heights. I just wanted to say thank you for them coming out and participating. We did do very good work along the corridor, but within a couple of days, there was still, the trash was just back. So, just be cognizant of it. And if you see large piles of trash anywhere, just reach out to the district office and we'll try to get sanitation out to see if they can assist with that. Earlier this morning, you all should have received an email alerting you that the 2023 CB9 application, the community board application for Brooklyn is now available. If you know of anyone who's interested in applying for the community board, they can go to the borough president's website. You can apply online. They also have a paper form. You can also go onto our website. We have uploaded in the news section. You can click the link, it's online, and then you can also click a second link. They're back to back right on top of each other on the page for the paper application. So if anyone needs the paper application, they can go to our website to obtain it. Just make it very clear that that application needs to be sent back to Borough Hall and not 90 Nostrand. This Thursday, right before the general board meeting, we will have a public hearing on the summary of the Climate Action Council's recommendations. The presentation, the recommendations from the Climate Action Council are also on the website. So you can go on there, the presentation's on there, so you can get a sense of exactly what all of that entails. But the information's there. There was supplemental information that went out regarding comments from National Grid, who will be giving a very brief presentation at the beginning of the public hearing. If anyone needs that information, have them reach out to the board office and I can supply them with that. It was too much information to upload to the website. So if you know of anyone who needs it, just have them reach out to the board office and I can supply them with that information. I believe that the New York City Council participatory budgeting is still open for idea submissions. If you have any ideas or if you know of anyone who might have good ideas, I would definitely encourage everyone to submit ideas for participatory budgeting so they can you can still do that online, and you can find the information out if you just go to the City Council website. I know that in recent meetings, maybe 2 meetings ago, it was brought up about representation from elected official offices participating at the executive committee and general board meetings, new invitations because elections are now over and finalized. New invitations are going to go out to elected officials requesting a representative to attend our meeting. So we're apprised of what our elected officials are doing in the community. And of course, once we get those updates, I can only imagine that some of that information will trickle down back to the committees and, lead a discussion. Also, I know that the Transportation Committee has had a lot of outstanding requests with the Department of Transportation. I am working with our local council members as of right now to get letters of support for specifically the speed bump and speed hump requests that we've had outstanding since I believe like 2014. Right now I'm compiling those letters. I have received a letter from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office, which they sent directly to the Borough Commissioner. Once we obtain the other letters, I will send those out to everyone so you can see those. We want to make some push with the Department of Transportation to actually implement some of these safety measures. A lot of these have been outstanding for years, and we know that our streets need it, and it feels like this agency hasn't been attentive. So I will keep you all apprised of how that goes, but I just wanted to keep you all in the loop on that. The office, we're working we're working to solidify the December calendar. Some of the dates will change. I'm going to send out an email to all the chairs again, just to confirm if you are going to be meeting in the month of December. Once we get that information, then we will adjust the calendar accordingly. And then I just wanted to urge everyone always, if you know of anyone who needs information from the board office, they can always reach out via phone, stop into the office during the hours, during our working hours, or email us. But I definitely want to encourage you all, if you have neighbors, folks that go to your church, your organizations that you're in, whatever it may be, have them reach out to the board office. We would like more and more people to sign up for our e-blast. We're getting a lot of really good information from a lot of good organizations from around Brooklyn to put in our e-blast. So we want to make sure that we're trying to connect people to this information. So please encourage your neighbors, any associations that you're a part of, to reach out to the board office. And I would just say this as just a side note, if there's any flyers that go into the constant contact, we typically try our absolute best not to send flyers out that solicit any type of money. So if you see that and it happens to slide in there, just let us know that's a mistake on my part. So just let me know. But yeah, we try to do our best to not solicit any monies. But with that, that's the finality of my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Dante. All right, at this point, we'll take a few questions for the district manager with regards to the report. Warren, I see you, then I see Debbie, and then I see Beverly. We'll go in that order. Go ahead, Warren.
Hi, Dante, could you give us some information on what's happening with the planning sessions or hearings about a Grand Army Plaza shutdown to pedestrians?
Yeah, so I guess in recent news, there is this plan by the Department of Transportation to make Grand Army Plaza essentially carless. I believe that they have an info session coming up tomorrow via Zoom. I believe it starts at 6. We will send out the information to everyone if you're able to participate. I think that you just have to sign up and then it will send you the login credentials for the meeting. I also believe that they're going to be out at Grand Army Plaza this weekend. We will send all the information out, but I think that they're going to be out there this weekend with a pop-up for people who have questions and concerns. So we will send that information out. So just, follow your email. But if anyone, if you have any concerns or thoughts about that specific project at Grand Army Plaza, I would definitely encourage you to participate. With them closing down Grand Army Plaza, it's definitely going to have consequences for our district. And so, if you can go online, Google the information tonight. We'll send out the information tomorrow so you can just kind of get a head start, but it's definitely going to have consequences on our district, especially Flatbush, that corridor and Empire Boulevard. And so these are things that it just kind of seems that the Department of Transportation is trying to just move quick on. And so we want to make sure we get as much public input as possible.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Debbie, you have the floor.
Oh, Dante, who is the liaison for DOT?
Our DOT liaison is Diana Soriano.
And you haven't had any conversations with her or the rep that attends the Borough Service Cabinet meetings on these speed bumps?
Yeah, so the speed bump request I do submit this the speed bump request and a service request to the Department of Transportation. They just haven't done anything with it, so I'm taking a different approach. I think that working with our local elected officials, especially elected officials that are on transportation committees and their transportation focus, is a really good way for us to hopefully leverage our relationship and get these speed bump requests here in the district.
And just for the benefit of, and to be clear, speed bumps are not a fast process. They are not. Once the request goes in, there are certain studies that have to happen, and there are certain warrants, I believe, or certain things that have to be in alignment. Like they can't be on certain streets. There are certain things and certain, things that they can't do. But notwithstanding, I think, our district manager really kind of underscored the point. There are some of these that are just so far overdue, it's ridiculous. And I think that what's owed to the district is yes, no, or this is the reason why it's behind. But the radio silence we received is really unacceptable. So, I want to thank the district manager for taking this on and for engaging the elected officials, because, we need an answer. We need an answer. We need action. So let's hopefully, this new tack is going to help us move forward. Okay, I see Beverly.
Dante, in the last cabinet meeting, did you address DOB in regards to the scaffoldings at Ebbets Field, Tivoli? Were you able to talk about how long they can stay up, how long they're being allowed to stay up, and the fact that they were up in the first place?
My apologies, Beverly. I did not. I just know I did not. So what I will do is I will put that at the top of my list, and I will send an email to DOB in the morning with you on it. And then we will get the information. And DOB tends to be a really responsive agency. Damaris has been very good over there. And so I believe we'll get the information pretty quick.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I thought I saw Felice had her hand up. Felice, do you have a question?
Yes, my question was centered towards the DOT. If Dante, if you could please reach out to someone pertaining to moving the speed camera that's on Sullivan. I believe that speed camera was actually meant for Montgomery, but they put it on the wrong end. It was supposed to be towards the direction of Montgomery, where it would make the access of crossing the street much better and safer for us all.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Dante, I
you.
do have one point. I do have one point as well, just because I heard you say something, and I heard chocolate and peanut butter, so I said let's make some Reese's. With regards to participatory budgeting, if that is still open and we can still put in, I would like to make the recommendation that whatever garbage cans we are missing, whatever waste baskets, we need to put that in for as capital expenses. For that. That should definitely be something that we should put in participatory budgeting on behalf of the board. So if that's still possible, let's please make that happen. All right, Warren, I see your hand up. Do you have a last question? Or is that a holdover?
No, that was from before.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, okay, so with that, we're going to go into the chairman's report. I'm going to try and make it quick because I think some of the points have been covered between committee meetings, between the committee reports and the district manager report. First of all, what I do want to say is, I think that right now we are at the November meeting. September is always a weird one because, we're coming off, we have the holidays, the committees are just getting formed. October, I think we're still doing some formation. Now that we are at the November point, this is where, as far as committees go, we need to be buckling down. So what I would ask for all the chairs, as I have you on the line, is to make sure that you're kind of solidifying what your agendas are going to be for the rest of the year. So if there are policy issues, and sometimes those just pop up and those, we really should be working on those. Let's keep our ears and eyes open in terms of the policy issues and questions, legislation that's happening, because we want to make sure that CB9 is able to respond in terms of really what the interests of the district are. I had a conversation with the district manager. We're going to try our best to make sure that we are steering that information in your direction as best as we can in terms of if we hear of legislation or if we hear of certain policies that are being developed, so that way your committees can start addressing them in a timely manner. But we definitely need for all the chairs to make sure you're picking up and having these conversations and identifying resources and generating those recommendations as quickly as possible, so that way the board can act and we can have the conversations we need to have from that level. Also, as we talk about committees, I wanted to talk about attendance. So we have already started identifying that there are some members who have not been consistent in being kind with coming to committee meetings. The committees drive the board. Attendance is what drives the board. Showing up is half the battle for us. So I've already reached out. We're working with the district manager and the office team. They've already done outreach to the committee chairs in terms of identifying members who have had issues with attendance over the last couple of months. It is definitely the part of the job that is not fun in terms of having those conversations, but we need to make sure we have those conversations, because when people are missing and not showing up and we are not making quorum, that affects the operations of the board and our ability to really serve the district in the way it needs to happen. So for all those chairs, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you respond back to the district office with those members who have had attendance issues. And I want to be very clear. My intent is not right off the bat to come with the boot and get everybody off the board. Part of what we want to do is make sure we're having the conversations. One thing I will acknowledge right off the bat is life happens. I get it. And sometimes we're in circumstances and things just spiral, and it does happen. And we want to have the conversations, and I want to let people know that we are understanding. We're all human beings, and we're all going through, we have human experiences. To the points where we can rehabilitate, I prefer to try that approach to rehabilitate. If rehabilitation is not possible, we will continue on. We have mechanisms in the bylaws that we will use to deal with those issues where it's like, listen, this is just beyond the pale, and they're truly impacting committee and board operations. So we're in the process of gathering that data. I will have additional conversations with the committee chairs, and we'll have some decisions we'll be making some decisions going forward. But again, we need the feedback. So if you're having issues, if the specific people you're having issues with, please let us know, and we'll make sure we address those as best as we can. Now for the committees. So for all the committee chairs, so one of the things I want to do is I want to make sure that we have some one-on-one time in terms of, you can let me know what exactly is going on. We can identify if there's any course corrections that need to be made. If there are supports that you need, I want to be able to identify those so that way we can make sure that by the end of this year, you're really kind of in the direction that you need to be. So I'll try and schedule some time. It doesn't need to be a long time, but hopefully we could just get together, get a few minutes, just kind of get set, kind of figure out where the committees are going, figure out what resources and supports you need. So that'll be happening over the next couple of weeks. The district manager already talked about the December meeting schedules, and again, especially for those who are newer members, one of the things historically we see is that November-December timeframe is always very difficult to program and do meetings because we compete with the holidays. One of the things we do is that we move the exec and the general board meeting up, but that just compresses everything else as well. So it definitely makes it a little bit hairier than usual. So I would just ask that, please make sure you're responding back to the district office whenever they're sending correspondence. Make sure that if you're rescheduling meetings, give as much notice as possible and set the expectations of the committees. So that way they can also set their schedules as well. Because I know that, a lot of us were in a mode where we know the first day of a month or the second, day of a month is when we normally meet. November and December are usually very different. So please make sure we're keeping track of that. With respect to that as well, committees are required to meet 5 times, a minimum 5 times a year. Obviously, we encourage more just because there's usually a lot more work that needs to get done. But I would also say it is fair for you to consider, do you need to meet in the month of December? If you have items that could possibly wait until January, maybe that's something that you would consider as well. But please have those conversations with the district office and let them know so that way we can get the word out and let the committee members and the community know as well what the schedule is going to be going forward. Next time I want to discuss very quickly, again, transportation related, we have a bunch of things that are coming up. So we have the Grand Army Plaza, plans that are, being thought of right now. That's something that's going to be very important for us to get into. Although Grand Army Plaza is not in the district, we will definitely feel the effects of any changes there. So we want to make sure that we're weighing in appropriately as well. In terms of what our feelings are, what's good for the district, what's good for for this section of Brooklyn, period. So that's something we're going to be looking into. Additionally, one of the things I wanted to look into, is actually trying to convene a town hall in conjunction with DOT, in conjunction with MTA, with respect to the B41 corridor. So there was already an announcement that they are looking at some major, they're looking at reconfiguring that corridor because it's no big secret that traffic sucks there. Traffic tends to grind to a halt. It's all those thoroughfares going through that part of Brooklyn just slow down at certain times of the day, and it's a fault. We want to make sure that we are weighing in. First of all, when the community is aware of what's going on, we want to make sure that we are able to weigh in terms of what the parameters of any changes are going to be as well. From the last meeting that we had with DOT, they had said that they are still in the very early stages of this. So, and this is very rare where, we still have an opportunity to have input. So we really want to take advantage of this. This is going to be something we're looking to do. Again, this is going to be something that takes a little bit of time because I have to coordinate. And again, the months of November and December are really very hard in terms of trying to do this kind of programming, but we're going to try and do something as quickly as possible in terms of being able to make sure we're on the front end of this, as opposed to they've already started doing things, and it's very difficult for us to make any changes, as historically has been the fact. The district manager already spoke with respect to the outstanding DOT issues. Definitely a pain point in the transportation committee. I'm glad he's taking this up. We definitely need to get that resolution with respect to that. 2 announcements with respect to chairs. We had 2 committees that had not had assigned chairs for September and October. So what I've done is, under my purview as chair, I've appointed Warren Burke, who will act as chair for the Economic Development Committee. And I'm going to personally be chairing the Transportation Committee. I wanted them to, from conversations I've had with them, I wanted them to make sure that they understand that they are not stepchildren here, that they are a priority, that their work is very important, and that they definitely have, support, strong support in terms of the board of the work they do. So I'm going to be chairing that for at least the near term. And that is something that can be reconsidered at a later point as well. But I want to make sure that, and this has always been my philosophy, I want to make sure that the committees have leadership that's in there that is able to support them, and that the leaders are, will have the capacity to take care of that as well. I don't like to set up anybody to fail. So we are going to be going with that going forward, and any other reports we'll make with respect to that. The last thing, no, actually not the last. A couple of other points too. I attend, by virtue of the fact that I'm chair of the Community Board 9, I also attend the Borough Board, the Brooklyn Borough Board. So one of the things I want the board, our chairs and our board to be aware of is Borough Hall is looking at developing some kind of plan, health related, but there are a number of different tangents that also come into play, with which Borough Hall is looking to have a rubric where they will make recommendations, where they can look to that to make recommendations in terms of planning and development in the borough of Brooklyn. So there have been some preliminary conversations that have happened in September and October. My understanding is Borough Hall will be doing a town hall on this matter as well, which will be something that will inform the public in terms of what work has been done and kind of give a timeline in terms of what's going to be coming forward. We haven't received information with respect to that yet, but I definitely wanted to put the heads up with respect to that because it's going to be something very important that we need to look at. Very much the same way we're looking at City of Yes and its potential impacts. This is going to be something that's going to be borough-based that can impact us as well. So once we do have that information, I will make sure that we share that to everyone. And I highly recommend that we stay on top of that, we participate, everyone get educated on this. And, basically make sure that we're able to weigh in as this goes along to make sure that this is something that is truly going to be a benefit to the district. Right, and I think the last item that I have is with respect to the bylaws. So I think the only update we had is that I think the original iteration of the bylaws, we had about 13 or 14 items which I had submitted. From that point on, I think we had maybe another 4 or 5 items that had been submitted into, to the district office. So right now, I believe the count is we're looking at about 17, anywhere between 15 and 20 different amendments, text changes to the bylaws. There were some questions from a couple of board members who had actually wanted to add a couple more. So I believe the link may be open. We might be able to take a couple more as well. But I think from that, I think we don't have too much more in terms of what's come through. I wanted to make sure that we were very clear where nothing has been formally proposed. Well, no, let me clean that up. There are proposals that are on the floor. The way the board is going to tackle that is still the question at hand. So we will be having conversations as an exec, and this is probably something that comes before the board as well in terms of what is the pleasure of the board? Do we have the information? Are we satisfied with the options that are there? Or what other next steps to be taken with respect to that? And that'll be a decision that we'll make as an exec and as a board. All right, so with that, I believe that concludes my chairman's report. For right now, I will take some questions. All right, Kyrie, I do see your hand up. We'll recognize you. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, good night, thank you. So I actually do have a few things to say in regards to your report and your updates to everyone. First, thank you for you having. And again, this is just me being a voice for myself and as a member of the community board, which we are to serve the community. In regards to the bylaw, you mentioned that at first we had about 13 or so submitted, and then the first 13 that were submitted, I know you disseminated your 13 suggestions in September, and then you opened it up for the rest of us to do so with the week's time. I know I'm personally the person that also submitted those other 4 or 3 to 4. And I was just curious to know, when were those suggestions going to be disseminated to the rest of the board? I understand now you're saying that you've opened it up for more time, which I do agree that everyone needs more time to review. But again, the only ones that we've seen or the suggestions were the 13 that you initially suggested from the beginning. None of mine have been shown to the rest of the board. So that's one thing. And second part, you also mentioned, and in one of your suggestions in the 13, I don't know again if it was just you or if anyone else submitted, was in terms of checking board members' participation. And one thing that I responded to one of those suggestions that I don't think would be fair is that it's now being suggested, I believe it was by you, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if there are instances,
I'm
bylaws
sorry, Kyrie, you're
you
breaking.
know, you would have 30 days. My apologies. 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. a
Can
little
you
bit
hear
better,
me? Okay.
Yeah.
So you said that the bylaws state now there's 30 days. If anything happens, you know, we have 30 days for a member to potentially go before the board, and the executive board have to vote to probably be dismissed or removed from the board. One of your suggestions is now to turn it into 50 days. And for the chair of the board, which is yourself, actually have the power, and if I read it correctly, the power to single-handedly remove someone from the board, a board member. So that's one thing. I know you spoke to it briefly, but I don't know if everyone's aware of all the changes or everything that is being suggested. And again, I just wanted to know, when will we be able to see other suggestions that have been submitted from board members with regards to the bylaws and just with regard to everything? And lastly, my last one really quickly, because someone who at the very beginning stages who submitted, who called, who came in, who did everything to try and be a part of a committee, one of them being the Economic Development Committee. I believe transportation later came on a list of mine. I asked to be a part of the committee, as well as signed up to be a chair of a committee to see if I could get that opportunity. As member at large, literally 5 to 6 other members, I won't share their names, but they have come to me saying that they too have wanted the opportunity to be on a committee. Maybe they weren't selected for that committee. We know that you, Fred, have the power to select and do all of that. However, in one of my questions too, for the bylaws, it currently states that the chair of the executive board should not also chair the subcommittees. And I feel as though we have 50 members. If no one is ready to step up, I mean, let's exclude me, right? Let's take me out of it, even though I was one and won't give an opportunity. I think it's our job to prepare the other board members. You know, Warren does a great job. You do a great job. Francesca does a great job as a chair. Nicholas, maybe you all can shadow or to help. Primo's doing a fantastic job, but granted, he was the chair before with youth services. But just to help others and so that we all feel included, because I honestly feel as though every time I speak up to try and say something, I'm either shot down with my points, but then I watch the emails that are disseminated and then the processes that are, you know, administered by you, Fred, and I just feel as though it's taken away from the power from everyone as a board member. So that's all I have to say. And again, you, like you said, you appointed yourself to be the chair. Again, when our bylaws clearly state that this is not supposed to happen. And we actually had a couple of emails being sent out to us where board members are complaining, people from the community are complaining about that as well. So that's all I wanted to speak to. Thank you.
Sure. Let me see. I'll try and touch on a few of those points. Price Tic-Tac, it wasn't a 1 week thing. I know we tried to allow for about 2 weeks. We opened the window for about roughly 2 weeks. I think we
It was
started on a
11
Monday.
days. Fred.
We started on a Monday, I believe, and I think we closed it not that Friday, but the following Friday. So there were roughly, if it wasn't a full 14 days, something very close to 2 weeks if we had kept that open. But again, it's not even a matter of we kept it totally shut and we didn't allow anybody. I think we've been, we had contacts from people who said they still had ideas they wanted to submit. So that is open. And, I don't think it's ever been a no where you can't submit or it's too late. That is still something there. But I think even to that point, we, from the 13, we got an additional, I think you said three or four. I think it's about 4 other.
Yeah, those are
four
for
more that
me.
came in.
And the first 13 were
Understood.
for you that you sent in September.
And
And
no,
you
but
have not
that's kind of the
shared.
point. No, understood, but that's kind of the point. In terms of what was put out to the board, the opportunity was placed so that way people can say, I thought whatever you said was really crazy, so I'm offering this. Or if you had something totally that was missed, that was an opportunity to put that as well. So I think one of the things we look at is the numbers for that. And I'm not even saying we're ready to look at it, but I'm just saying is that's one of the things that I'm offering in terms of, the fact that it's slowed down may mean that we have the bulk of what we need. Does it make our bylaws perfect after that? Absolutely not. But I think we have at least a starting point of the conversation. But I also want to correct a few things that you said that I think, that were not accurate. First of all, the amendments that I put in with regards to, like, I think for one of them for closing the time down from 30 days to 15 days is more because what we found historically is that we've never, the 30-day requirement drags out a process way more than it needs to. Because that 30 days means it almost takes us 2 board meetings to get and to do any actions on anything. So what I think we found is that, or at least, the
My
sweet spot
apologies,
tends
when
to
you
be-
say we, because I'm also a part of the executive committee, I don't recall us ever discussing that, so can you, who's?
No,
we?
you're right. Okay,
Is-
and I apologize. You'll hear me say we a lot of times, just because classical training, I guess. But let me not say that. I've spoken with other members as well who've gone through that process. So not necessarily an executive meeting session, but I've spoken with other board members. The idea being 30 days is way too long. It drags out a process. 15 days, and it goes back to the throwback of you used to have to mail things. Mail would take 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever it would take, get there, verify receipt, and all these other things and processes in terms of, so it drags out a little bit longer. But the upshot is it dragged out a process that probably didn't need to drag out as long. So I think that's the reason why we're looking more towards the 15 days. Logistically, it allows for, 1, you get the charges. 2, you have an opportunity to come to both the executive committee and to the full board and address the charges. And I think that's fully what we wanted to have happen, where there's sufficient time to at least be able to come to the exec and the full board. And I want to make it clear that that doesn't mean an action happens by the full board. It means that you have an opportunity to address it, and the board at that time or the exec at that time has the opportunity to say, dismiss the charges, we need more time, the person needs more time, or we can do whatever we need to do. But I think what we wanted to do is go from a situation where by statute, we drag out a process that doesn't have to take that long. 2, and this is something that's been pervasive, and I really need to shoot this down. There is nothing in the language, and I would recommend everyone to read even the first draft that went out, that said that the board chair can unilaterally remove anybody from the board. The only thing that was offered, change that was offered, was that the board chair can serve charges. And the reason why that was put in is because if we wait until the executive every month to do that, then that means you have at least 30 days, you can only do it every 30 days or so. At least with this. So if you know that there's something quick that needs to be done or something really serious, the board chair has the authority to serve that, and we can start that process. Nothing else changes. They still have the rights to come before the exec. They still have the same rights to come before the board and get that taken care of. I just want to address that right now because that's been something pervasive. I don't know how, because the text is pretty clear, and I think even in the rationale, I explained that pretty in depth. So there is no, the chair all of a sudden keeps people or kicks people off of boards. That is not happening. And Kyrie, I just want to speak to you personally with respect to this, because you said it a couple of times in terms of we have not responded to you. When you originally put in your application, there was original deadline, you had missed the original deadline, we had extended the deadline.
I didn't miss
You
a
responded
deadline.
in between, hold on. No, there was an original deadline, which was missed. Let me say this first, and then we'll be able to discuss it. An original deadline that was missed, a secondary deadline that you did come in before, but listen, we just happened to miss that. And I think we explained that to you because you did come to the office and we had a conversation. And at which point we did say, you as a member of the executive committee, you kind of fulfilled already your requirement to be on a committee. And we did
As
offer you at
you're
that
the
time.
chair
I'm sorry,
of the
Dr. Kyrie, let me finish first.
No, you're right. My apologies.
All right. And we did offer you that. And we did respond to you after that and say, okay, You are good where you are, but if you want one of the committees, let us know. To which point you have not responded. I want to be very clear. We did get back to you.
Okay, okay. Thank you. And I promise I'm gonna stop because our colleagues have their hands up as well, but just to be again, and I have the series of emails, the calls, the responses, and I did get back to you all. And again, you just stated, and when I expressed to you and Dante, when you told me that, oh, I'm already a part of the executive committee, that's why you all thought that it would be great for me just to bounce around other committees, see what's going on, but I didn't have to fulfill any other requirements to be a chair. That I responded to you saying that I submitted my submitted my selections just like everyone else, all of the other executive committee members who are also chairs of boards, and even for you to just tell me how you suggested that for myself, but you as the executive chair, though our bylaws say not to, you still appoint yourself to be the chair of a subcommittee. So
Okay,
I'm just saying that again, and again, any
I'm sorry, faded out
by
there.
back to you in person, to you and Dante. And it's just not right. And also back to what I was saying with I implore everyone to look at your initials that were submitted September 26th for how you would like to change everything. And with regards to the 30 days to 15 days, and now add in the executive committee chairperson to be able to start this process and remove people. And you're also the person who appoints everyone to every chair. I just think it's too much power that's going on. And not for you to say you've done a great job, but you're not going to be here forever. And when we have other folks that come onto the board and the executive board, I feel as though there's too much power being given to the chair, which is you, and you're asking and requesting more with your bylaw amendment suggestions. And when I've looked at other community boards in Manhattan, in the Bronx, the stuff that we're having here in Brooklyn is so much different in terms of power. It only comes from the executive committee where it's 7 persons that represent the 50. We're all equal, and I don't feel as equal. Again, I'm only speaking up for all of the members who personally write to me. I don't know if they're scared or whatever is going on, but I am here to serve the community just like all of you. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we did have some other questions as well. Let's try and go through them quickly. So I do see Warren, I do see Teresa, I do see Fran, and I see Dante.
Hi, this is Warren. I'm really confused by Kyrie's comments. It's documented that this whole thing about him being the chair, he just missed every date. But more important to that, I just want to approach why Fred and I are chairs. We're chairs because of no one else wants to be. We have the experience, obviously the expertise. Is it a desire to be a chair? The answer is no. Is it the calling of public service to do it? Yes. Because if you don't have a chair, you need to get going. So it's not a matter of control or anything else. It's a matter of need because of volunteering on the board. The second thing is that I just find Kyrie's comments, I mean, this is an old story. We've discussed them 8 times. And the board has, the documents to say what happened, what didn't occur. So I don't understand the persistent pushing for things that are documented in another way. The last thing is that I'm concerned with Kyrie in terms of who are the we that are getting the emails and the calls? Has he forwarded them to the board? Has he informed us? Is this like a secret society? So I'm just concerned with that. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Just one quick point, and then we'll go on to that. Teresa, we'll get you next. Kyrie, just to kind of make sure that we're talking on the same page, if you could let us know what your last communication was with respect to your committee choices. I just want to make sure we didn't miss something because I know we had sent a response, but let's do that back channel. Let's hit this there so we can have the conversation. Okay, Teresa.
Hi, this is Warren. I just want to add to that. Kyrie, can you send the board office the emails you're
Okay.
getting as a member of
Okay,
the executive board? You're here to.
Okay,
you're
so
here
Warren,
To make no, excuse me, sir. You're here to help us and to improve and to say that you have all these things on the side. It just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
so Warren, you're welcome. And if I may, people, because he always addresses me and speaks to me.
Carrie, hold on. Carrie, let me go through this. I'll give you an
Please give
opportunity
him
to respond.
Thank you
I
so
will
much.
give you an opportunity to respond, but let me go through the rest and then I'll let you.
This is also probably why everyone's nervous to say anything to you all, because it's like a bully situation going on here.
Kyrie,
Kyrie, I have to tell you, I take.
Okay, Warren.
I'm gonna take that.
Warren. We're gonna go through the.
No, hey, excuse me, Fred. What are these words? He's just throwing them out. Thank you.
Warren, order the day, Warren. We're gonna go through the order. Ms. Westerdahl, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi, in regards to the bylaws, I want to submit some things, but I am nervous, you know, it does feel like a little bit of bullying going on here. I would like to have a committee where I could speak freely with other people about the bylaws and what my ideas are and get some feedback and also hear what other people have to say. Because there's some surprises in there that, you know, it does seem like maybe Fred is going to have too much power, or whoever is in that chairperson in the future. The bylaws are serious, and we have to look at what the changes are very seriously. That's very rude, whoever just did that burped when I'm talking, and I was interrupted when I wanted to talk by Warren. Chairman, can you help me
He's
out
on
here?
mute. It wasn't him. He was on mute. Been on mute all this time. We'll continue.
But it
Okay,
doesn't
well-
matter. That's rude. That's still rude.
I understand. I didn't see who did it, but what I'm saying is at this time, at least I can say it wasn't Warren. He was on mute. He's been muted.
No, I mean at the beginning when it was my turn to talk, Warren kept talking. So
No,
I don't
and I
appreciate
did call
that.
order of the day. And no, but I called order of the day. This is what my responsibility as chair is.
Well, this is the kind of
Order
thing
the
where
day.
I want to be able to speak freely and not feel like I'm getting burped at or interrupted or treated rudely when I want to talk about my ideas. You know, that's not okay, because then I get nervous and then I'm like, that's not okay to treat people like that. I would like to feel free and open, and I want other people to join this board, and I want people to come here and help us all out. And there's not people don't hear this guy Kari wants to be the head of a committee, and you say people aren't joining or don't want to do it. Let's be welcoming, let's be encouraging, let's encourage people to do things, not shorten things, like shortening the days. If you get upset, say with me, and you want to remove me, I have like just 15 days to respond under this new bylaw. That makes me nervous. You know, I don't like that. So I think others don't as well. So I hope that we can have a committee and go over these with seriousness, that this kind of change gives it the gravity that it needs to have. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Francisco, we see you.
I am just sitting here and I don't understand. When we are taking 2 steps ahead, then we take 5 steps behind. And I'm sitting here and hearing some accusations, I'm hearing some comments, and the things that are being said, it's like persons on the outside, we're talking about bullying, and I'm not saying the bullying, we're talking about taking control. And we would talk about someone taking control, but the chair, with all good conscience, and those of you who knows the chair, would not accuse him of wanting to take control. There's a community boards in the district, bylaws are made. I'm on other different committees, and we put the bylaws together. And when the bylaws are completed, all the committee members, they add the comments, then it goes to the head office for review for final approval. If for any reason that someone is not in agreement with what's in the bylaws, we have Borough Hall who is over all the community boards, and they can take a look at the bylaws on what's in there, what's not. Give everybody a chance. There is no. What's the reason for feeling frightened? You can talk and then you're afraid to talk. What's the reason for saying all that? There is no reason, because at the end of the day, the table I myself have sat down with the chair, and I have gotten on the chair's back when persons are saying too much. And I say, hey, you give too much leeway. And he says, hey, the table is open. Everybody have a voice on the table. I can't stop people I have to give everybody a chance. And if Mr. Allen, I don't know, because I'm not there on the decision when it comes to the committees, but I know that for a fact that the chair have been trying to get persons to lead committees, to chair committee, and no one wants to take up the hand. Therefore, he have to do it himself. You can't just leave the chair there. He didn't appoint himself as the chair. You have to have a meeting. You have to have a meeting. Somebody have to lead the meeting until they get someone to come in to take over. So it's not a matter that he's appointing himself or he's appointing himself to lead and take over the board. And a lot of the comments that are being made tonight, these are comments that I have heard long time before Mr. Allen, you were there, Mr. Westall, before you were there. These are comments that I have heard from community members. You understand? So it's like, you all are meeting persons on the outside. They are not part of the community. But so if you're coming out and you want to say that community members, the board members have issues, they have a voice. They can send an email. They can call the chair. They can call the manager. They can send email. So why is it that they have to send you an email? Why is it that they have, are you the chair of their community? Is there a separate committee going outside that you are the chair and they're sending information to you? If I have an issue with the chair or anybody on the board as that, I will face them. I will send an email. Why they have to send it to you? So I just don't get it. And hold on a minute. And the thing is, at the end of the day, all the accusations and all the things that I'm hearing tonight, these are stuff that I have heard, comments that I have heard, and accusations that I have heard from outside committee members. And it's like, since they are not there to bring it to the table, they are using you guys to bring it, and it's causing chaos. And I don't like to be part of chaos. I don't like, we are here to work together. So if you are saying that you want to serve your community, let us serve together. Let's put our heads together and work together. It's always division. It's always this person doing this. And when this person come in, it's just like we're going right back to where we were. We're going right back to, I've heard person come in and say, I'm joining the board so I could make changes. It's not about you or about me. It's about us. It's about the community. We're working together. And because the same thing that you're saying, that you all want togetherness, you all want this and you all want that, and then the same knife you all take to cut, you all to turn the side and cut for the negative. It makes no sense whatsoever. We want to work together, but yet still we are tearing up each other. You all are out there in the community, having your all meeting and coming back with negativity. The chair did this. This board was down to 0. And Chair Baptist came and brought it up to where it is. It's not perfect. It still have a long way to go. It has a long way to go, but if you'll come with the attitude that everybody want to come and take control, everybody want to come and lead, everybody want to come and boss, it's not going to work. And I'm just tired of sitting here and seeing people coming in with their own concept, their own ideas, and you just feel that you just take it and put it on the table and everybody has to swallow it. No, we all have to come to the table together. You may not agree with me, I may not agree with you, you may not agree with Warren, you may not, everybody has their own personality, but at the end of the day, we have to work for the interest of the community, not one person in the community, not 2 persons in the community, but everyone in the community. So it's just like, it's getting to me when I see the same behavior over and over, and persons are coming with their own attitude and just want to take control, but you're accusing somebody else of taking control, but you all want to take control. You all want to boss. Ms. Rassendal, you have always given the floor to speak. The chair have never stopped you, and there's no time at all he have ever stopped anyone from expressing themselves. So why are you frightened? Someone on the outside here, you said, I want to be free and I want to be able to talk, then they'll feel that there's some sort of hostility. There is no hostility. The hostility, you all are creating it. It's time for it to stop. If you all don't accept the bylaws, there is someone who's over the liaison for Brooklyn, who's over all community boards in Brooklyn. Take it to them. Let them see it. Say, this is what it is. And then we will go to the table. We'll do what we have to do. Chair Baptiste is not trying to control the board. Chair Baptiste is not trying to control you. He's not trying to control me. Let us work together, and enough of the foolishness.
All right, Dante, see you next, then Naomi, then Kyrie, I see you.
Yeah, I just simply want to say that if I make a mistake, I own up to that mistake. And I don't feel through anything that Kyrie said earlier that I did anything wrong. There was no ill intent. And I have the receipts to show that I sent you those emails. Lastly, I just want to thank my staff. We work very hard and diligently in the board office. I just want to thank them. Thanks.
We all want to
Thanks,
thank
Naomi.
you.
Okay, Naomi, we'll see you next.
Good evening, all. I do apologize for my tardiness. Thank you, Chair, for giving me the space to speak. So thank you, Mr. Fred Baptiste. Naomi Baptiste, no relation. And I've been on this board for, I think, 1 year. I could be mistaken, but I think I've been here for a year. In my year that I have been here, yes, Mr. Baptiste has done tremendous from what I'm hearing. But as I've been on the board and been made a chair, I have seen a lot of division within the community board within itself. Some of it is bruised ego. Some of it is other conversations. I understand what Mr. Kyrie Alleyne is saying, but we have to understand that, as my previous person before me said, these are things that has been being said all the time. And the question is that, why is it being said? If there is a question, the only way that we can bring it to the chair is if we discuss it in an executive meeting, because we are the chairs. But my question to everyone tonight, because I'm gonna make it short and brief, is that, would you kill a whole generation because your feelings is hurt? That's my first question. And secondly, we are here because we need some changes in our community. We only have a tidbit, a twinge of that. But Abraham Lincoln said it best. He said, you give a man power and they'll show you who that man really is. So as a volunteer for this, let me repeat again, as a volunteer with my time, is that I've heard a lot of division. Every time that I do speak, there's a problem, not from coming from the chair, from the committee itself. And this is my first year here. The sad thing is that we have the power to make decisions for people, and we don't really do it for the people. We end up doing it for ourselves. That's the reason why we're here. But my opinion is that it is an opinion, just like a doorknob. We don't have to take it so literally. It can be lighthearted. Why are we fighting each other when we have the ultimate goal is to make Community Board 9 better? But unfortunately, through different backgrounds, through different talks, through different things, Mr. Alleyne is right. Mr. Baptiste is right. Everybody's right. But guess what? Who's willing to take the courage to say, I'm wrong? So thank you for your time.
Kyrie, we'll come back to you. So you had your hand raised. Are you there? Frozen.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. I'm sorry. I didn't say thank you to you, so thank you.
No, what was yours, man? Absolutely. Kyrie, yes, You're recognized.
Yes, thank you. So, just piggybacking off of the last sentence that Naomi just said, nobody wants to say that they're wrong. I don't think in this case it would be a wrong or right, but I want to say, I want to apologize for being wrong. I want to apologize if in any way me, speak or just trying my best to get my innovative thoughts out, the thoughts of others has come across or have hurt anyone or, to bring them down, because that's definitely not my goal. As a volunteer position that we all need to remember that we are doing for our community, I don't have the time to do that, but I do have the time to make a difference and to make something better. So if that is just continue to be shot down every time I mention something, then that's what I'm going to have to do here. And I would like to address a couple things. For you, Ms. Francesca, you said
Kyrie, I think you froze. Yeah, Kyrie, you froze. You have to repeat yourself.
when it's published. Can we hear me now? Can we hear
Yeah,
me?
you're a little bit choppy though. We can hear you now,
Oh,
but you
my-
froze before. So you may need to.
Can you repeat yourself because your internet went out?
My apologies. All right. Am I being
Choppy,
heard now?
choppy.
No.
It's a choppy signal, so you come in and out.
How about this? We need to express the bandwidth here.
Okay, so how about this? Let me take my video off. Maybe that's what it
Yeah,
is.
that
Can
might
you hear me
Perfect.
better? You see, it's the
better.
video. Okay, so I was basically just saying that I wanted to piggyback off what Naomi Baptiste was saying, in terms of if we're wrong.
You cut out
Lost
again.
you
Or is wrong.
All right, Kyrie,
What
let's
is-
try this.
I'm saying for all.
If you,
Oh, damn, just.
sometimes it helps, if you want to try and call back in, like I have Felice there, let's take her. If you want to just try and reconnect, see, maybe you get a better signal.
Okay, can you hear me now? No.
Still choppy.
I'm just gonna stop here. I mean, I've said all that I've needed to say. Just again, to Francesca, you mentioned about us being leaders and everyone always has something to say. And when is the time? We are all selected. The reason we are all leaders, we are all leaders, and thus why we are here to represent our community. That's the point I want to make to that. Dante, in terms of the email that you and Fred were responding to me, I'm glad that you also mentioned here of the many times we've had voice calls or when I had to walk into the office to speak to you all after feeling bullied, disrespected, and I even told you all this before we even got into the second chain of emails. I didn't respond to any of your emails afterwards because I felt as though you were being funny or you all were trying to cover your trails with emails. So I wanted to say to you, I think you did
Why
a great
wouldn't you
job. I've
respond to
never
the
wanted to
emails
shy
if
on.
we're communicating with each other? I don't understand that. If I'm
Because-
asking you a question, why wouldn't you
Well,
respond? That
Dante, I'm sorry, let him finish this point.
The question. Answer. Dante. Okay, I.
Yeah, Kyrie, I apologize. We're missing half of what you're saying.
I've seen you.
Yeah, we're
The
missing
commu-
half of what you're saying.
Never. Celebrate.
Yeah, Kyrie, we can't hear you. You keep chopping up every couple of seconds. But the one thing, let me just say this. I have a couple of points, but I'll finish with something in a minute. I do want to recognize we're gonna have to close this up very, very shortly. So Felice, I see you. Suki, I see you. I have some final comments, and then we're done with this portion. I'm gonna move on to the agenda. Felice, go ahead.
Okay, I just would like to make a suggestion. Can we start over, please? And if there's a position or a chair seat that you can, Fred, sit down and talk to Kyrie about, maybe we could start that over and see what help we can get. That's just my suggestion. As a chapter chair, as I explained before, of two agencies, I share my power. Without sharing it, Okay, it lessens my power. So this is why I share my cabinet with many people. So I'm just saying, can we just start over and share, so that we can just have a smooth transitional understanding or smooth over whatever disconnect that may have occurred, please? That's just my suggestion.
Great comment. Suki,
Just to switch subjects a little bit, can we talk about what is the process for determining the
Okay.
subject for the monthly public hearings?
So I broke up too, right?
was there a last part? Because I heard the comment, but is there the part we missed, Felice? Felice.
Broke up.
oh,
I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't know what's happening with these connections. It's just very poor.
You're not taking up a lot of bandwidth. That's what it is.
Here, what I stated.
Felice, it's really bad. It's really bad. If we could, if we can wait, let's talk offline because it's probably better. We can address the points, or we'll re-raise them. We have an opportunity. Suki, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your point.
Just to switch subjects for a minute, can we talk about what's the process that we're using?
Process for
The process that we're using to choose the monthly public hearing subjects?
we're still that is actually still something that is in development. We're kind of refining that process. What we've been trying to do is get things that are timely, particularly matters that we know are coming up of significance. If there's a time factor attached, if we know that there's testimony that might be expected from the board, we're trying to move those things up. So I guess the short answer is there is no perfect science. I know that a couple of board members have sent recommendations, so we do have those on file. But right now the priority goes to those things that are coming up, like there are public hearings or their expectations for the board to weigh in. So that's how we've been handling it so far.
And if I could add, since we have a requirement to post that information early, that puts us in a crunch to figure out exactly what this subject is going to be. Like, for example, it would be great to have a public hearing on the DOT Grand Army Plaza thing that just kind of really took surface over the past couple of days. But since we have to get the information out earlier, like we put it in the city record for the public hearing, so I believe we have to put that in there like 10 business days in advance. And with holidays and things like that, that moves those days. So we're still trying to fine tune exactly what that process is. But if there are like specific topics, things that come across your computer screen through your network that you hear that you think the community definitely needs to know about, definitely send it my way.
Okay, so basically we should let you guys know early.
Yes.
I'm just,
Yes.
I'm just kind of wondering, like, again, it's one of those things like everybody is saying, like, yeah, I can send in my ideas, but I'm a little bit in the dark as to what other people might have said. Is this maybe something that you would consider raising at the executive meeting and voting on, or I guess maybe that's too late for the
It's either too early or it's too late because of the way the cycles go. It's either too early to commit to something or it's too late to commit to something. So that's unfortunately what we're dealing with. And also, listen, one of the things that we look at is depending on how big it is, sometimes these are standalone topics. And I think that's one of the things we learned even with the CBC conversation. The 30 minutes probably wasn't sufficient for that. So depending on the matter, the answer is, it's going to be the lawyer's answer. It depends. Depending on the matter, depending on the timing, depending on the resources required, how big, how small we think the response is going to be, it may be something that goes within that 30 minutes before the board, or if we have longer scale, in terms of being able to plan that, perhaps it's something that's more sufficient. We plan a larger scale town hall around those things. But I just say thank you to all those who submitted, and we're continuing the process. Please give Dante and myself that feedback because that helps us in terms of figuring out what the right way is to proceed with this. I hope that answers kind of sort of the question.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
All right, I just had a couple of comments, and then we're going to move on. We do need to move
Right, it's too late.
I want to correct something with respect to the idea of the chairs being selected. The chairs are not always, it's not always, I wish sometimes the problem was I have so many people I've got to choose from that, I don't even know who to choose from. And it's not even a matter of volunteer. It's a matter of, we try and do the matches with with committees in terms of strengths, what the preferences are, and there's a whole bunch of things. So while the preferences are one thing, we're also looking at the strengths, who's there, who's not, what people are bringing to the table in terms of trying to build the strongest committee we can. Similar process with the chairs. There may be people who want to be chairs of certain committees, but in my office as chair, I have to look in terms of, and I have to look at it as a coach. What lineup gives us the best chance to win as a board? And that's really where I'm looking at it. So while I understand fully, sometimes there is a desire, and I don't fault that, and I appreciate that, and I like that desire. And especially when people show desire, we try and do those things in terms of being able to grow that, cultivate that, so that way because they come to the point where, yes, they are ready for that leadership role and they can take that. It's not always in that place. Sometimes there is more of a growth curve we need to do. I firmly believe in development. We try and do that as well. But going back to an original premise I put before, I've got to put the best team out there that I think is going to help the team to win. And you know what? As the chair, it works or it doesn't.
I know, because you could get electrocuted. I'm trying to die in.
Get the mic. Yeah. An imperfect process, but we do the best we can with that. And that just is something that goes with the chair. And I want to speak to something about, I keep hearing these words go on about power, the power of the chair. There is no power being the chair. As the chair, I have 2 cents, literally, just like everyone else on this board. I have 1 vote, counts for roughly 2.5% of any decisions we make. That's it. The power that I have, or the responsibility I have, is to make sure that we have an agenda set and we complete the agenda. The responsibility I have is to make sure that we have committees that are functioning and we're providing the appropriate support. There is no power that comes from this. Me saying I'm the chair and a quarter will maybe get me a bag of chips. Maybe not now because of inflation. But I think that's one of the things we need to get out of is this power conversation, because it doesn't exist. The only thing we have as a board is a platform. And all the chair is about is making sure we are effectively using that platform as best as we can. So perhaps maybe that's what we need to do, is get away from that. Stop having these conversations about power, and let's talk about how do we make ourselves more effective. And again, that comes back to the premise for more of some of the stuff that has been put forward. It's not about, okay, the chair wants to be able to kick people off. Nothing has been written that the chair can kick people off. The only thing that has been written is that the chair can start the process so that way the board can act better and faster. The chair is not kicking officers off. The chair is starting a process so that way the board and the exec can act more quicker to do things. That is all that has been proposed. I think I stated this in another forum where it's like, yeah, listen, it's about what makes us more effective, more efficient, because let's be very clear. This conversation is not what CB9 is about. We are supposed to be discussing the changes at Grand Army Plaza. We are supposed to be discussing CBC. We are supposed to be discussing any other myriad of issues and topics and DOT and speed humps and all that other stuff. For us to dedicate this amount of time on a process at the end of the day really doesn't mean anything, is what we're trying to avoid. What we are looking to do is make our bylaws work for us in terms of the things that need to get done quickly, efficiently. We're not putting more energy than we need to, because that way we can devote the energy we need to into the issues that really affect our district. All right, so with that, I'm going to leave it at that. And I would definitely put out there to Ms. Westerdahl, to Kyrie, to any other residents, because I think I've always offered this as well. I don't know, it's like if you're saying you're scared of me, I think you're scared of teddy bears too. You're running from teddy bears. The door is always open. We are always open for the conversation. We may not, I think what we're trying to get better at is learning how to disagree and still be, but still be agreeable, and understand that our disagreement doesn't mean we think less of each other. We're going to get to that point, but we need to get away from this thing where we think it's about a power trip. Somebody has all of a sudden got the strings and the keys, and they're going to move some agenda forward to benefit themselves. All right, so with that, that concludes the chairman's report. We're going to go into the next item very quickly in terms of those one piece of unfinished business. Then we are going to vote on the agenda items. No, we are going to vote on those action items that were for the committees, and then we're going to set the agenda. So I want us to go through this very quickly. So we have one unfinished business item, the bylaws committee, the recommendation for the bylaws committee. I will entertain a motion at this point to take that item from the table.
Hi, it's Warren. I make a motion to reject the motion for the
No,
bylaws
we
committee.
gotta bring it, we gotta bring it up from the table. And then
Oh, I'm
it gets either
sorry.
voted up or voted down.
Okay, I
Yeah.
make a motion to bring it up from table to the present.
So I have it moved to take it up from the table by Warren Burke. Do I have a second? Call for a second time. Do I have a second to take the item up from the table?
I'm so sorry. What is the motion?
To take up the bylaws, there was a motion from last month to table the motion to create a bylaws committee. This motion is to take that item up from the table and vote on it tonight.
Okay.
So I have the motion by Warren. I need a second.
The motion to do what? To remove the bylaws from the table?
No,
Yeah.
it was on the table. So we're going to take it up from the table to discuss it. So when we say yes, we're going to take it from the table. We're going to discuss this motion. And we're going to either vote it up or vote it down or do whatever we do. But it will be
Okay,
disposed of. It's not going to be unfinished business.
Okay, second.
So I have a second by Francisco Leopold. All right. Okay, all those in favor of taking the item from the table, please say aye.
Aye.
2,
Aye.
Aye.
3, 4. There are 4 in favor. Any opposed from taking it from the table?
Aye. Naomi
I'm sorry, Naomi.
Baptiste.
I'm sorry, Naomi. Only executive, only the officers for the vote.
Am I not an officer?
No, you're a chair. Officers
I
are.
apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
No worries. No worries. No worries. All right. Okay. Yeah. So were there any no's? I hear no no's. Are there any abstentions?
Wait a minute, let me ask. I'm sorry, this is Naomi Baptiste again. Am I a part of the no's or no?
No, you're not.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. Are there any no's? I'm sorry. We're up to abstentions. Any abstentions? Okay. Hearing none, please note that. Well, actually, let's call this. Warren Burke, Fred Baptiste, Francisco Leopold, and Linda Watson Lord voted in favor of bringing it from the table. There were no no's. But actually, so what you do is list Mr. Almanor, Chris LeBeau, I don't see him, and Kyrie Aline is absent for the vote. Please note them as absent.
And we have a quorum, correct?
We do have a quorum, correct?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the matter is now brought from the table. So the motion before us right now is whether we could create a bylaws committee. I will take a speakers list. Warren, you do get to speak first since you moved it from the table. Do you have any comments?
Yes, I make a motion to vote against establishing a bylaw committee.
Oh, no, the motion was already made, so we brought the motion back. So it's just a matter, we discuss it. Are you in favor of the
Okay,
bylaws
I'll
committee or
discuss it.
not?
Yeah, I'll discuss it. Basically, I think that what's been done has been a enormously democratic way of handling this. Instead of establishing a committee, we should extend the time frame 2 or 3 months. We have, number one, given the full board the proposed bylaws. Number two, established a communications link, i.e. the spreadsheet, where not the committee, but the full board of 40, 42 people can give their comments. So I think that by establishing committee, we're essentially moving backwards and basically not being as democratic. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Are there any other, anyone else who wishes to speak? I'll recognize myself, but is anyone else who wishes to speak?
Yeah, I just want to say that, on the other committee that I am, we had, although we had a bylaws committee, all they did was to just say, okay, the bylaws need updating. And the draft was submitted to the entire body. The entire body had made the comments. They looked at it, they made changes, and it was brought back. It was reviewed and sent to. And so I think that the bylaws, at the end of the day, we're looking at now just as where we are, and then the accusation is coming that the chair, or sometimes it would even say, I've heard that the executive committee are making decisions, and the full board, they are not aware of it. Okay, these accusations that have been made before, and here you have the bylaws, and we just put in the bylaws committee just to dissect it and just make the changes just for the committee. I don't think it's a good idea. I think at the end of the day, the bylaws need updating. The bylaws have not been updated for how many, 20-something years, and the board at large should have a copy of the bylaws. They should see. They should give the board an opportunity, and then gather all the decisions, all the comments, whatever changes, and bring it back to the table, and then we make the decision. At the end of the day, everyone is aware of what's in there. When the final draft is made and the changes are made, then it is being sent out to the board again. They'll see the final draft, and then we take it from there. I don't think should just be for a few persons, but the board at large should have an option to make the changes.
Is there any other comment? I'm going to recognize myself last. Is there any other comments?
I have one, Naomi Baptiste, if I may.
Go ahead.
I got 3 things to say. Hold on, son, because I'm helping my son with his spelling test. He has a spelling test tomorrow. So my first one is thank you for letting me say. Number one, like I said, I'm a novice in this. I personally picked up Robert's rules for myself to read. It wasn't offered to me. I mean, I'm saying you had a training about it, right? But guess what? I had to learn more on my own to be more aware. That's number one, for myself, so I can be able to speak in a meeting. That's number one. Number two, me being a resident of Crown Heights community for 43 years, I have never seen anything like what I'm seeing, because this is my first time getting involved in my community, and I'm very appalled sometimes because people are making decisions for where I live, and I feel like I don't have a voice. That's why I came on the committee. Number three, I thought, my own assumption, I didn't ask. I thought I was given to be a chair because I had a voice, and I was given to it because it was felt that I had some strong points. But unfortunately, what I'm learning about this lovely place is that number one, you want to have your voice, but it's a certain way that you have to speak. So if you don't know how to speak, then you can't use your voice. So if we have constituents, which is the community, that don't know how to speak and use a voice, and we as a committee, as an executive, because I'm supposed to be a chair, but I can't vote on executive things. And then I come to the general board meeting, and when I say something, because I have an opinion, it gets blasted because it's something that somebody doesn't like. I'm not saying anybody here, I'm just saying from my experience. What are the examples that we are showing the community with all these changes, that they have a voice? If you don't even have a voice, with being on a committee to use your voice. So thank you for the chance to talk.
Absolutely. All right, so seeing that, I'm going to make these last comments. I just want to say I agree with with the rest of my colleagues from what I've heard so far.
Mr. Chair, if I may say that Christian is there, he's back.
Oh, Chris, okay. Okay, all right, so we'll make sure we know Chris when we have.
I'm sorry, did somebody call me?
Yeah, no. We saw that you had gone off, but we saw you're back on. So just to catch you up, we are now, we took from the table the bylaws committee, the motion for to create the bylaws committee.
We,
Okay.
sorry, where did we land with that, Fred? I'm on the subway, that's
We're,
why I'm in
we're
and out.
actually, we're discussing the motion right now. So did you have anything you want to say with respect to, are you in favor of a bylaws committee or are you opposed? Do you have anything you want to say before you dip out, or?
Okay, sure. I'll be brief, and I'm sorry the train is going by. I like the idea, in theory, I like the idea of forming committees, right? Because you're putting more people, you're giving more people a chance to have a leadership role and share their opinions. But in the case of these bylaws, I think that the entire board had opportunities to weigh in on it in a manner that was transparent and in a manner that there was more than one opportunity to weigh in. I recall at least twice the district office sending out an invitation to all the board members to send in their thoughts on what they would like to see in the bylaws. And I've been listening to our conversation tonight. I've heard the frustration on all sides and for various reasons. And, I think we just sometimes as a community board, we have to, as someone said earlier, agree to disagree and understand that not every battle is something that needs to be fought. And while a committee in theory may be a good idea, in principle and what I've seen over these last month or two is that the process has been, in my opinion, sufficiently open for individuals to share their views. And I would prefer not to spend more time as a community board forming a committee and instead investing that energy into the existing committees that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. So, and with that, you really probably shortened the amount of things that I was going to say. Yeah, I agree. It's like, I agree. Listen, I don't want us to waste time doing things that we've really kind of already decided. Committees would be to vet the process, to kind of get the ideas together, to do that legwork. Most of the legwork seems to have been done. Now, this is not to say that everybody's going to be in favor of every amendment that's been done, but let's vote on it and move on. And that's the way we go. We vote on it and move on. And that will happen with every amendment that is being proposed. I think it's important to note that, there are still opportunities for input in terms of when formally presented, those amendments can be changed. There are things that can be done to those amendments at that point, but we need to move on. I don't want to spend an inordinate amount of time doing business that is really not the business of the district. It's an internal item which can be rectified very quickly. All right, so with that, we will call for the vote. All right, so all those in favor. Now, remember, the motion in favor to create the bylaws committee, if you vote yes, you are in favor to create the bylaws committee. If you vote no, you are against the formation of the bylaws committee. So all those in favor of the motion to create a bylaws committee, please say aye. Call for a second.
Aye.
All those.
Aye. Aye.
No, you don't have a vote. I'd say you don't have a vote on this.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you're here because your committee lets us know what's going on. Your committee reports up to the exec and will report up to the general board. But
I
at
vote
this stage,
aye
the
as
officers
well.
are responsible.
Aye.
Ms.
Aye.
Westervelt, okay,
Thank you.
There's a confusion here. You're not a member of the exec. Only members of the exec. So, any members of the exec who wish to vote in favor, please say aye. All right, hearing none. All those members of the exec in opposition, please say nay.
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 Okay, I heard Warren Burke. I have Fred Baptiste votes nay.
Linda?
Linda and Francisco vote no as well. Is there anyone else who voted wasn't recorded? Okay,
I
hearing
think
none.
Chris's, but he's having trouble with
He's having
transportation.
trouble.
He was in transit, so I think we lost him. We're not gonna be able to record his vote. Okay, are there any abstentions? Okay, hearing none. I heard 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in opposition. Motion fails. Okay. All right, which brings us back to the original proposition. Where do we go from here?
Mr. Chair, I'm so sorry. because I'm getting a little, I think that there is something that I'm hearing Miss Baptiste, but you need to explain for her, because I think when I became chair and I used to attend the executive meetings, I was as confused as she is and wondering, okay, I'm here, I'm the chair, why can't I vote? And I don't think she's getting understanding. I know she said she read the, Robert's rules. As the chair for the committees, we are part, as chair of committees, we're part of the executive, but not voting members of the executive. So we could be there, take part in the meetings, give a report for our committees, but when we have any voting that has to take place, we cannot vote. So it's not a matter that you don't have a voice. It's just that if you're not part of the executive, you are not a voting member of the executive. That's all it is.
That is
Mr.
absolutely
Chair,
correct.
may I speak to that? May I say thank you to her? Is that okay?
Very quick. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Thank,
ma'am.
thank you so much, because guess what? My hand is raised because my question was about to be, why am I here? That was gonna be the question. But since you answered it for me very nicely, I really appreciate you for explaining, because if that's the case, then the question is, why am I here if I can't have a voice? But you answered for me, so I thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right then. Okay, so I think that part of the feeling that I'm getting from this is, I think we've done a lot. And again, I will be the first to say, is it perfect? No. Will everything fly? I don't believe everything will fly. But I think we're at the stage where it's like we should at least put up for the vote and let's move the process forward. So, per the bylaws, what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to be 10 days prior notice of the consideration. What I would like for us to consider, and I would entertain a vote for that, is for us to move this to the full body to approve the presentation of the proposed amendments to be considered at the December, actually, I don't like, at the January meeting, because December's probably gonna be a short meeting anyway. If I can get that motion, then I'll speak to that very quickly.
Could I have a say before you go to that motion?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, I would entertain a motion to consider the proposed bylaws at the January general board meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so will anybody?
I would move that motion. Yeah, I would move that motion with the reservation to have 1 minute say on.
Absolutely. As a maker, you'll get first. You'll be able to comment first. So I have a motion by Linda Watson-Lloyd. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Warren Burke. Okay, moved and seconded. Linda, you have first.
I supported that motion because I wanted to know if persons will still be able to make submissions. I mean, Ms. Westerdahl had made remarks to want to be part of the process. And I think maybe I'm sorry she's gone, where she would be able to correct me with my thinking. I think when she was speaking of that, she was speaking of like having her comments or her submission or her contribution put before a number of people instead of just sending it into us written like we did in the past. So I was wondering if, seeing that we have moved it to January, which gives us time to extend the submission date or the submission timing, so that other people, we will still encourage them to submit whatever changes they want. I think we spend too much time worrying about somebody's changes without submitting our own. And I think we need to push it in that direction, that people are still able to submit their changes, their recommendations and their comments, so that it is still a democratic process. It might not be the conventional way that we have been accustomed to, but then again, Zoom meetings have not been our conventional way for all our lives. There's a change, and we must sometimes go with or make our own contribution to whatever change there is for the day. So even although we might not have the committee, I would not like people to feel that their submission is not needed or not request. Just make sure that everybody still know that they have the same process to submit. All should be recorded and all should be reported and all should be shared before we come to a final decision on what is what. Before there's any adjustments to wording, adjustments to submission, sort of like say the raw data is shared with everybody and then we will go.
Absolutely. I just want to say I concur with everything you said, and really that's been the direction we want to go in. I think we just want to set the line in the sand and say, yeah, we're going to vote on it in January. The idea is we just hadn't sent it out. I thought we would have sent it out earlier, but we had gotten into the point where we had the motion for the bylaws committee. So we didn't want to be premature and send that out. But I think with this gives us the opportunity to forward everything that has been submitted. I think we definitely give ourselves an opportunity. If there are people who have more ideas that want to submit, we can do that. Perhaps by the general board, we should consider a cutoff time, just so that way we have most of the stuff that will be considered. And we also give ourselves an opportunity to be able to put it out there for the board to digest and for the public as well. And that may very well end up being the public commentary for January, or the public hearing for January, where the public can weigh in as well. But I think by setting it that far out, we'll be done. By January, we'll know what we're doing. And people will have it. It'll be out there. People can review it. People can make their recommendations, their suggestions. But we can finalize this and move on. And I think we want to do this. Either we do it or we don't. And I'm good with either way. So let's just get it out the way. Are there any other comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Or in favor? Any opposed? There are none in opposition. Are there, well, actually, yeah, I hear none in opposition. Are there any abstentions? The second time for any abstentions. I do not hear any abstentions. Please note for the record, absent for the vote, Chris LeBeau, Nicholas Almanor, and Kyrie Ling. Okay, because I do want the records to reflect for attendance purposes, they were here, but they were not present for those votes. Okay.
Hey,
All
Fred,
right,
it's Warren. I think we should note that Chris had a medical emergency with his family.
Yeah, Madam Secretary, can make that
Yes.
note. Okay.
And
all right.
also,
Okay, so
Mr. Nicholas, and also that Mr. Nicholas was out of the state and he wasn't really sure.
You know,
I just, you know,
yeah.
Huh.
No, I mean, because on the one hand, it's like, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss the notation.
yes, because Chris was here.
Discuss the notation. Okay, all right. All right, so we've got that. So now we are going to move on. Let's move on to these voting items, because we had a number of items that need to be considered by the board. So let us do these very quickly. First item were the SLA applications. SLA has 3 applications for Island Escape for a new beer, wine, and liquor license, for the House for renewal of a beer, wine, liquor, and wine license, and Bar Bayou, a renewal of a beer, liquor, and wine license. So all those were heard we heard the report of the chair. Those were approved by the committee. Are there any objections to adding those to the agenda?
Sir.
Okay.
No objection.
No objection. Okay, so by common consent, those items will be added to the agenda. Okay, all right. Next item that I heard was for the ULURP, for the creation of a subcommittee on the City of Yes. So the
Yes.
committee voted to create that. Are there any objections? Let's do this very quickly. Are there any objections to adding that to the agenda for consideration by the full board?
Hi, it's Warren. I don't have an objection, but I would like research into whether a committee appointing a subcommittee is subject to board vote.
We can do that. I'll
Let's
do the
look
additional
into it,
research.
that's all.
Yeah, I'll do the additional research, and if that's the case, then it's a moot point by the time we get to the board, but we'll have an answer by Thursday.
Thank you.
So with that, do we have any objections? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna add that as an item, voting item for the board to consider. All right, Warren, let's
Mr.
do
Chair,
this.
does that go for, I'm so sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so for Warren, now I know you had said that you were thinking about doing the shop local for December. Do we want to just put that for a vote now? Because if the details don't work out, they don't work out, but I think it's good for at least for us to have the approval by the board.
That's fine with me, because I'm waiting to hear from a potential partner. And until they make a decision, we can't make a decision.
Good, so let's put that on the agenda. So for shop local, for CB9 to participate in the shop local with Bridge Street, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and tentative date, December 10th. Are there any objections from the executive committee?
Is there a rain day before I make any?
That's one of the
Say that
questions we
again?
don't have. Go ahead.
I was asking if you have a
Uh,
rain, you have a rain day.
No, it's not a matter of that. Bridge Street, we've requested that Bridge Street provide funding. So the decision makers were not around last week, so they're doing it this week. And we'll find out. Is there a rain date? No. But if they give us a positive answer too late, we'll put it back a week.
Okay.
But I think it's important for us to at least have the board consider it. So even if it's in principle, we agree with the event, let the board vote on that and give it its blessing. And if the date changes, it changes. That's okay. So are there any objections with adding that to the agenda?
No, no objection.
Okay,
No objection.
Hearing none. Hearing none, that'll be added to the agenda as well. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to continue to see what else we had.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I have one question.
yes.
I have a question. Question is that my committee, Education and Library, had to be canceled yesterday, right?
Okay.
Now, question is that if my committee is canceled, and if people don't come to my committee, how would I be able to bring some things to the table because I don't have quorum? That's the question.
All right. Okay, here's the thing. Hopefully you got the email, the communication from the district office. But then this is an issue all across all the committees. If you have people, I want you to, to look through your minutes, take notes of who was present or who was absent for each of the last 3 months. If anyone has missed 2 or 3, or either 2 or all 3 of the meetings, please send that list to the district office so that way we can have the conversation. But
well, the conversation is
I
I got you, but the conversation is that I can't do that because the last meeting I wouldn't know because it was canceled. So it was canceled because of the district office. Me and Dante had a conversation. So we could talk about that later, but my question is that if there's a misscheduling, right? And you want to report that people are absent, you cannot report people are absent if you don't have a meeting, right?
No, so that's what I'm saying. So don't count November. Just give us the numbers. Who's missed 2 meetings? Who missed September and October?
No, that's the question. Nobody missed. So that's why I'm saying that because of the miscommunication and because of holidays, right? The question is that how do I continue, right, as a chair to do what I need to do so I can get some things done to bring to the table to get done if there are discrepancies because of somebody else's miscommunication? That's the question. I can't.
All right.
Like I said, we can talk after. We can talk after.
Yeah, let's talk after.
Yeah, but that's just a question I'm posing because if I'm an education and library chair, right? I'm here. I don't get to vote, but I get to listen. And then if I don't have the right tools to make changes, for the community because of whatever, right? The question is that what is my purpose? That's what we're gonna talk about on offline, please. That's why I wanted to raise my hand to let you know.
No. So let's talk about it offline. We'll see what we need to do. And actually, that was one of the points I raised earlier. I'm going to be having calls with all the chairs because I need to understand what's going on, how you guys are doing, what the agenda is, and what support you need. So we'll talk about that. That's going to be scheduled. We'll take care of that. Okay. All right. Okay. Moving along. Let's go transportation. Transportation had the street co-naming for Joyce Kwamina. So they voted in favor of that. Is the exec in favor of adding that to the agenda? Are there any objections for us adding that to the agenda?
No.
No.
Okay. Hearing no objections, we'll add it. Okay. All right. With that being said, we are now
May I ask,
going to
Mr.
go-
Chair, where is that co-naming taking place?
Yes.
It's President Street, and I'm trying to remember the cross street.
Montgomery?
No.
That was
not
President
Montgomery.
Nostrum.
Nostrum.
Thank you, President Nostrum.
So who are they naming this street after?
Joyce Kwamina, she was one of the founders of the West Indian Day Carnival
That's in
Association.
Detroit.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for.
No, absolutely. Okay, all right, so listen, so we're gonna move on to this next item. Hopefully this, we're gonna go through this fairly quickly. So we are going to have the monthly hearing. The topic has already been set. It's on the climate change.
Mr.
correct?
Chair, we setting the agenda for the general meeting now. We are right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
This is the agenda for the general. Okay, so we are going to have the public hearing. And that topic has already been set and publicized. Then we are going to call the general board meeting to order. Okay. At which point, Dante, do we have any presentations?
For the general, no.
Okay. All right. We are going to have 3 SLA applications that we've just discussed. We are going to have Island Escape. And I would ask the district office just please make sure we have the correct information on the agenda when we send it out. So it's Island Escape. We have the house. And I believe the last one was Bar Bayou. Please put the correct information for each of those locations on there. Okay, so after the SLA applications, we are then going to go to public commentary. Public commentary, we're going to have acknowledgements. Okay, after acknowledgements, we're going to go into the business session. So for the business session, we are going to have the roll call. We'll have approval of last month's minutes. We will then have roll call approval of minutes. We'll have committee reports. I'll remind all the committee chairs, please make sure if you haven't done so already, submit your committee reports to the district office. We're gonna need it soon, tomorrow, because the packet needs to go out so that way we have it to the board. So if you haven't done so, please
Mr.
make sure
Chair,
it goes
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Naomi Baptiste
Yes.
speaking. I don't have any minutes to report, so
then you're good. Then you're good. Then you're good. If you
Okay.
haven't met, then you're good.
great, thank you.
So committee reports. After committee reports, we are going to have the district manager's report. DM report, we're gonna have the treasurer's report. Treasurer's report, we are going to have the chair's report. Chair's report, we're gonna go into a voting session. Here's where we have fun. Okay, in the voting session, we're gonna have the following items. We have SLA applications. We're gonna have street co-naming. We are going to have shop local. We're going to have City of Yes subcommittee. Hold on.
Francesca's two committees.
Repeat that again?
Francesca wants to have two subcommittees.
Not just one, two subcommittees, huh?
Well, she's taking care of the health, okay?
Mhm.
It's a big deal. And that's pending your evaluation.
One second. Yes. Development, local. Believe that's all I had for that in terms of voting items. So once we've completed that, yeah, so we have those voting items. SLA application, street co-naming, shop local event, City of Yes subcommittee.
Four items under that, right, sir? Four items.
Four, correct, yes.
Okay.
Those 4 items, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, so after the voting session, we have, there is no unfinished business, nothing on the table, so we'll just have new business. And then we will call for adjournment. Okay, all right, that is the agenda, the proposed agenda. Are there any items that are missing that we need to add? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, bylaws, voting session, bylaws.
No, I thought that was January.
That's January.
Yeah. No, we're voting, so it'll be voted on. So it's not a matter of we're gonna do it. It's gonna be a matter of it goes to the board, that we'll vote on it, and it'll be happening in January.
Okay.
Okay, the bylaws in January. So add that. That's fine. That's a good item. All right. So that is the agenda, the proposed agenda for Thursday. Are there any other items that we need to add? Okay, hearing none. It's going to be tight, which means that we need to make sure everybody's focused. We're going to take care of the business that we need to and move as quickly as we need to through this, okay? All right, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as stated.
So made.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Oh, I had a second by Nicholas Almanor.
Christian is back as well.
And Christian is back as well. And okay, Ms. Watson-Lord, I think, did you make the motion?
Yes, sir.
You get the credit. There you go. All right. Okay, moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Are there any objections to common consent in adopting the agenda?
No.
Okay, I hear no objections. Please note Christian Lubo and Nicholas Almanor present for the vote to adopt the agenda. Okay, all right, with that, the agenda is adopted.
Thank you.
Go out shortly. So with that being said, I think we are, is there any other business that we need to consider at this time for the exec?
No.
Okay, hearing none, everyone, thank you so much for your time and your consideration. These are not always fun or easy conversations, but I thank you for hanging in there and for really being willing to listen to everyone else as well.
I thought it was a great meeting. Everybody spoke, so it's good.
And we try and do that, at least, at the very least, we try and do that. Okay,
Really?
all right, so with that being said, yeah, so listen, so with that, at this time, unless there's any objection, yes, unless there's an objection, we will adjourn. Any objections?
Object.
Aye.
Fran wants to stay. Okay, hearing no objections, we stand adjourned. The Madam Secretary, the time is now 9:56 p.m. Everyone, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you on Thursday.
And thank you too.
Night,
Thank
everyone.
everyone. See you
Everyone.
Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank